The phone rang at 3 in the morning. Brill Wingfield was awake. He was always awake at 3 in the morning. Sleep came in shifts now, had for years. 2 hours here, 90 minutes there, never more than 3 at a stretch. The body remembered things the mind tried to forget. The body kept watch. He picked up on the second ring. Yes. It's Carver. The voice was tight, controlled. Carver never called unless the situation had already gone sideways. I need you on a plane in 2 hours. Brill sat up. The apartment was dark except for the blue glow of the city through the window. Washington never really slept either. Just pretended. Where? Miami. What's the problem? The chief of staff's daughter, 19 years old, spring break. She's been gone 48 hours. Brill stood and walked to the window. 14 floors down, a taxi rolled through an empty intersection. Someone was going somewhere at 3 in the morning. Someone always was. Gone how? Kidnapped, we think. Could be dead. Could be worse. Worse than dead. Brill knew what that meant. He'd seen worse than dead in 6 different countries. FBI? No FBI, no locals, no anyone. This stays quiet or the chief of staff loses his job and the administration loses the chief of staff 3 months before midterms. So it's political. Everything's political. But the girl is real and she's missing and her father is sitting in his house in Chevy Chase trying not to put a gun in his mouth. Brill watched the taxi disappear around a corner. The street went empty again. What's my authority? None. You don't exist. You never existed. The girl gets found, you get paid, and you disappear. The girl doesn't get found, you disappear anyway. Rate? 50,000. Another 50 when you bring her home. Brill did the math. 2 weeks of work, maybe 3 if it got complicated. It would get complicated. It always got complicated. I want 75 up front. Done. There's a ticket waiting for you at Reagan. Delta, 5:40 a.m. to Miami International. A man named Kovach will meet you at baggage claim. He's the chief of staff's personal security. He'll brief you. Kovach know what I do? Kovach knows you're expensive and effective. That's all he needs to know. He going to get in my way? That's up to you. The line went dead. Brill set the phone down and stood at the window for another minute. Somewhere in Miami, a 19-year-old girl was in trouble. Maybe she was already dead. Maybe she was praying someone would come. Maybe she'd stopped praying. He turned away from the window and flipped on the lights. The apartment was sparse. A couch, a table, a chair, a kitchen he rarely used. No pictures on the walls, no books on the shelves, nothing that said anyone actually lived here. It was a place to keep clothes and weapons and wait for the phone to ring. He showered fast and hot, standing under the water until his shoulder loosened up. The shoulder always hurt when rain was coming. A man in Bogota had put a knife in it 4 years ago. Brill had put a bullet in the man's forehead, but the knife had found cartilage and the cartilage remembered. He dressed in jeans and a plain blue shirt and boots that looked worn but weren't. The boots had steel in the toes and good traction. You could run in them. You could kick in them. You could stand in them for 16 hours without your feet going numb. The go bag was already packed. It stayed packed. Clothes, toiletries, cash, 3 fake IDs, and a passport that said his name was Michael Warner. Michael Warner was a consultant from Denver. Michael Warner was boring. Nobody remembered Michael Warner. The guns were in a safe in the bedroom closet. He opened it and pulled out a Glock 19 and a little Ruger LCP. The Glock went in the go bag, broken down into pieces. TSA didn't care if you flew with guns as long as you declared them and locked them up. The Ruger stayed behind. Miami would have guns. Miami always had guns. He locked the apartment and took the elevator down to the garage. His car was a 10-year-old Honda Accord, silver, with a dent in the rear quarter panel. Invisible, forgettable, like him. The drive to Reagan took 20 minutes. No traffic at 4 in the morning. Just trucks and cabs and people whose lives happened while everyone else was sleeping. He parked in long-term and walked into the terminal with the go-bag over his shoulder. The ticket was waiting at the Delta counter, just like Carver said. The woman behind the counter smiled at him with practiced efficiency and handed him a boarding pass. She didn't look at his face. Nobody ever looked at his face. He was average height, average build, average features. Brown hair going gray at the temples. A face you'd see in a grocery store and forget before you reached the parking lot. Except for the eyes. The eyes were black. Flat black. Shark black. No warmth in them. No light. People felt those eyes even when they weren't looking. Some animal part of their brain recognized what they were seeing and sent up warning flares. Predator. Apex predator. The kind that didn't announce itself until it was already too late. The woman at the counter glanced up once, met his eyes for half a second, and looked away fast. Her smile faltered. She slid the boarding pass across the counter and said, "Have a nice flight," but she didn't mean it. She wanted him gone. Brill took the boarding pass and walked toward security. He was going to Miami. A girl needed finding. And somewhere in that city, someone was about to have a very bad day. The plane touched down at Miami International at 8:30 in the morning. Brill walked through the terminal with his go-bag and waited at baggage claim. The air conditioning fought a losing battle against the Florida heat that leaked in every time the doors opened. Tourists shuffled past with their rolling suitcases and their sunburned optimism. They were here for the beach, the clubs, the fantasy version of Miami that came in brochures and Instagram posts. Brill was here for the version that didn't make the brochures. Kovac found him near Carousel 7. He was easy to spot, 6'3", 240, with a neck like a tree stump and a suit that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Former Secret Service, probably. They all had the same look, the same haircut, the same way of scanning a room like they were reading a threat assessment. "Wingfield?" Kovac's voice matched his body, deep and blunt. "That's right." Kovac looked him over. His eyes lingered on Brill's face for a moment, then moved away quick. "Car's outside. We'll talk on the way." They walked through the terminal without speaking. Kovac led him to a black Suburban in the pickup lane. Another man sat behind the wheel, younger, with the same haircut and the same suit. Kovac opened the back door and Brill climbed in. The Suburban pulled away from the curb and merged into traffic. The driver said nothing. Kovac turned in the passenger seat to face Brill. "How much did Carver tell you?" "Girl's missing. 48 hours. Chief of Staff's daughter." "Madison Wright, 19. Junior at Georgetown. She flew down here 6 days ago with 3 friends. They're staying at the Fontainebleau. Spring break. You know how it goes." Brill knew how it went. Rich kids and alcohol and bad decisions. Usually they went home with hangovers and stories they'd tell for the rest of their lives. Sometimes they didn't go home at all. "When did you know she was gone?" 2 mornings ago. Her friends woke up and she wasn't in the room. They figured she hooked up with someone and would show up later. She didn't. By that night, they were scared enough to call her father. "You call the cops?" Kovac's jaw tightened. "Chief of Staff made the call. No cops, no FBI, nothing official. Madison has a security detail back in D.C., but she ditched them before she got on the plane. She wanted a normal spring break. Just her and her friends being regular college kids. Nobody's regular when their father works in the White House. She didn't see it that way. She posted everything on Instagram, where they were going, what clubs, what restaurants. She made herself a target and didn't even know it." The Suburban turned onto the causeway. Water stretched out on both sides, flat and blue and glittering in the morning sun. Miami Beach rose ahead like a promise. Hotels and high-rises and palm trees swaying in the wind that came off the ocean. "Where are we going?" Brill asked. "Beach house in Bal Harbor. The Chief of Staff rented it 2 days ago. It's our command post. Everything runs through there." "Command post. How many people are working this?" "You, me, and Driscoll here." Kovac nodded toward the driver. "That's it. Chief of Staff wants this tight. The fewer people who know, the fewer chances it leaks. Brill watched the city slide past. What about her friends? They're still at the Fontainebleau, scared, lawyered up. Their parents flew in yesterday and nobody's talking to anyone without counsel present. They talked to you? Enough. They told us Madison met some guy at a club 2 nights before she disappeared. Latin guy, mid-20s, called himself Rico, club promoter. He was buying them drinks, promised VIP access to some exclusive party. Madison was into it. The friend said she left with him around 2 a.m. That's the last time anyone saw her. You get footage? We pulled security cameras from the club. Grainy as hell, but you can see Madison leaving with 2 men. One of them might be Rico. They got into a white panel van in the alley behind the club. Plate? Stolen. Reported missing 3 weeks ago from a plumbing company in Hialeah. Brill filed that away. Professionals didn't steal plates 3 weeks in advance. This was planned. What else? That's it. That's everything we have. 2 men, a white van, and a girl who's been gone for 48 hours. The Suburban turned off the causeway and wound through streets lined with expensive homes. The houses sat behind walls and gates and manicured hedges. The kind of neighborhood where people paid for privacy and got it. They pulled into a driveway and stopped in front of a 2-story beach house with white stucco walls and a red tile roof. The windows were tinted dark. The lawn was perfect. A pelican sat on the seawall out back, watching the ocean. Kovac got out and Brill followed. The heat hit him like a wall. Humid and thick and alive. His shirt was sticking to his back before they reached the front door. Inside, the house was cold and modern. White furniture, glass tables, abstract art on the walls that probably cost 6 figures and meant nothing. The kind of place that got rented by people who had more money than time. Kovac led him to a dining room that had been converted into an operations center, a long table covered in laptops and files and printed surveillance photos. A map of Miami Beach was tacked to the wall with pins marking locations. The Fontainebleau, the club where Madison was last seen, a red circle around South Beach. A man sat at the table, middle-aged, with gray hair and the look of someone who hadn't slept in days. He stood when they walked in. Mr. Wingfield, I'm Richard Wright. The chief of staff. Brill recognized him from television. He looked older in person, smaller. The weight of the situation had hollowed him out. They shook hands. Wright's grip was firm, but his palm was sweating. Thank you for coming, Wright said. Carver speaks highly of you. Brill said nothing. Words didn't matter right now, only results. Wright gestured to the table. This is everything we have. Security footage, statements from Madison's friends, phone records, social media. It's not much. Brill stepped to the table and looked at the files. Photos of Madison smiling on a beach, screenshots of Instagram posts, a grainy still from security footage showing a girl with long, dark hair getting into a van. I need to talk to her friends, Brill said. They're not cooperative, Kovac said. Like I said, they're scared and their lawyers. I don't care about their lawyers. I need to talk to them. Wright looked at Kovac. Something passed between them, a decision being made without words. All right, Wright said. Kovac will take you to the hotel, but be careful. If this gets out, it won't. Brill turned back to the table and picked up the security footage still. 2 men and a girl, one moment frozen in time. The last moment Madison Wright was free. He studied the image, the angles, the body language, the way one of the men had his hand on Madison's lower back. Possessive, guiding her. This wasn't a random snatch, this was a transaction. Someone had ordered Madison Wright, and someone had delivered her. Brill set the photo down and looked at the chief of staff. The man's eyes were red, his hands were shaking. I'll find her, Brill said. He didn't say he'd find her alive. He never made promises he couldn't keep. Wright nodded. He didn't ask for promises either. He'd been in Washington long enough to know better. Kovac grabbed a set of car keys from the counter. Let's go talk to the girls. Brill followed him back to the Suburban. The Pelican was still sitting on the seawall. It turned its head and watched them leave with ancient, indifferent eyes. The Fontainebleau rose from Collins Avenue like a monument to excess. Brill had seen it before, years ago, on a different job. Back then, he'd been tracking a money launderer who liked to gamble in the high roller suites. The launderer had ended up floating face down in Biscayne Bay. The Fontainebleau hadn't changed. Still the same curved towers. Still the same palatial entrance where valets in white jackets hustled around expensive cars. Kovac parked in the guest lot and they walked through the lobby. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, tourists in swimsuits and cover-ups heading to the pool. The smell of chlorine and sunscreen and money. They took the elevator to the 8th floor. Room 847 was at the end of a long hallway decorated with Art Deco prints and potted palms. Kovac knocked twice, authoritative, the kind of knock that said he wasn't going away. The door opened 6 inches. A girl's face appeared in the gap. Blonde hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. Red eyes. No makeup. She looked about 19, going on 50. "We already talked to you," she said. "This is Mr. Wingfield," Kovac said. "He needs to ask you some questions." "Our lawyers said we don't have to talk to anyone else. Your lawyers aren't here, and Madison's still missing. So you're going to talk to us." The girl's face crumpled. For a second, Brill thought she might cry. Then she straightened her shoulders and opened the door wider. The room was a suite, 2 bedrooms connected by a living area with a view of the ocean. Expensive but trashed. Room service trays on the coffee table, clothes thrown over chairs, empty wine bottles lined up on the counter like soldiers. 2 other girls sat on the couch. One was brunette, curled up with her knees to her chest. The other was a redhead, staring at her phone like it might tell her what to do next. The blonde closed the door. "I'm Ashley. That's Emma and Tara." Emma was the brunette. Tara was the redhead. Neither of them looked up. Brill moved into the room and stood where all 3 of them could see him. He didn't sit. Sitting made you less threatening, and he needed them a little bit threatened. "Tell me about Rico," he said. Ashley glanced at Kovac. "We already told him everything. Tell me." Something in Brill's voice made her look back at him. Her eyes met his for half a second and then skittered away. She wrapped her arms around herself. "We met him at LEV. That's a club at the... I know where it is." "When?" 4 nights ago. "No, 5. God, I don't even know what day it is anymore." Ashley pressed her fingers to her temples. "Wednesday night. We were in the VIP section and he came over. He was good-looking, Latin, really smooth. He bought us a round of drinks and said he could get us into this private party the next night. Some mansion in Star Island. Models and athletes and DJs. He made it sound amazing." Madison was interested. Madison was really interested. She'd been complaining the whole trip that everything was too touristy. Too basic. She wanted to do something wild, something her friends back at Georgetown would be jealous of. Emma finally looked up from the couch. Her voice was small. "We told her it was a bad idea." "No, you didn't," Tara said. She hadn't looked up from her phone. "You thought it sounded cool, too. We all did." Ashley shot Tara a look. Then she turned back to Brill. "Rico gave Madison his number. She texted him the next day and he said the party was on for Friday night. He'd pick her up at 2 a.m. 2 in the morning. He said the party didn't get good until late. Madison thought that was exciting." "Where were you 3? "Here. In the room. We were going to go with her, but then Tara got sick from the tequila at dinner and Emma had to help her and I was tired. I told Madison to stay, but she said she'd be fine. Rico seemed nice. He'd been a gentleman at the club." Brill looked at Emma. "What happened when she didn't come back?" Emma's eyes filled with tears. "We woke up around noon and she wasn't in her bed. We figured she'd crashed at the party or maybe hooked up with someone. Madison does that sometimes. She doesn't always tell us where she is." "When did you get worried?" That night, she wasn't answering texts. Her phone was going straight to voicemail. We called the hotel front desk and they said she hadn't come through the lobby. We didn't know what to do. So you called her father? Ashley nodded. Sunday morning. We waited as long as we could because we knew Madison would kill us if we freaked out her parents over nothing. But it had been too long. Something was wrong. Brill walked to the window. The ocean stretched out below, endless and blue. People were on the beach, lying in the sun, playing volleyball, pretending the world was safe. Did Rico mention anyone else? Any names? Any other people who'd be at this party? No. He just said it was exclusive. You had to know someone to get in. Madison leave with anyone besides Rico? Ashley hesitated. There was another guy. When she went downstairs to meet Rico, I watched from the balcony. There were two of them in the van, Rico and someone else. I couldn't really see the other guy. What kind of van? White, like a work van. I remember thinking it was weird because Rico dressed nice, designer clothes. Why would he be driving a van like that? You get a plate number? No. I didn't think anything was wrong. Brill turned from the window. Ashley was crying now. Emma had her arms wrapped around her knees, rocking slightly. Tara was still staring at her phone. What else? Brill said. What do you mean? You're not telling me something. What is it? Ashley looked at Emma. Emma looked at Tara. The silence stretched out. Kovac shifted his weight. His hand moved toward his pocket where he probably kept a notebook. Tara finally looked up from her phone. Her eyes were hard, angry. Rico gave Madison Coke, she said. At the club, Wednesday night, he had it in a little vial on his keychain. He said it was good stuff, pure. Madison did a bump in the bathroom. Ashley's face went pale. Tara, they need to know. If Madison's in trouble, they need to know everything. Brill studied Tara. She was the strong one, the one who'd been holding it together while the other two fell apart. Did she buy more from him? I don't know. Maybe. She said she might. So Rico's a dealer. Small time. I think he just does it for the girls at the clubs, to seem cool. And Madison wanted more. Tara's jaw tightened. Madison wanted a lot of things. Brill pulled out his phone. Give me Rico's number. Ashley recited it from memory. Brill typed it into his phone and sent a text to a contact. 2 minutes later, his phone buzzed with a response. The number was a burner. No contract, no name attached. Cash phone bought at a Boost Mobile in Overtown 3 months ago. What's Rico's Instagram? Brill asked. At symbol Rico Miami VIP, Ashley said. But he deleted his account. I checked yesterday. It's gone. Gone. Of course it was gone. Rico had used it to bait college girls and now he'd burned it. Brill walked to the door. Kovac followed. Wait, Ashley said. Are you going to find her? Is Madison going to be okay? Brill looked back at the three girls. They were children, really. Rich children playing at being adults in a city that ate people alive. Stay in this room, he said. Don't talk to anyone. Don't post anything on social media. Don't tell anyone else what you told me. But is she... Stay in the room. He walked out. Kovac pulled the door shut behind them. They rode the elevator down in silence. In the lobby, Kovac finally spoke. So Rico's a small-time dealer who lures college girls to parties. What's the play? Find Rico, Brill said. Make him tell me who he sold Madison to. You think he sold her? I think he delivered her. Someone paid him to get a specific girl, pretty, rich, connected. Madison checked all the boxes. They walked through the lobby and out into the heat. The valet brought the Suburban around. Brill climbed in and pulled out his phone. He opened Instagram and searched for variations of Rico's username. Rico Miami VIP was dead, but there were others. Rico Miami 305, Rico Miami Nights, Rico South Beach, all deleted. But the internet never forgot. Somewhere in the digital exhaust of South Beach nightlife, Rico had left footprints. Brill just had to find them. Kovac started the engine. Where to? Back to the beach house. I need to make some calls. What kind of calls? Brill looked at him. Kovac looked away. The kind you don't need to know about, Brill said. The Suburban pulled into traffic and headed toward the causeway. Somewhere in Miami, Rico was moving product and setting up his next score, and he had no idea that the worst day of his life was about to start. Brill sat at the dining room table in the beach house with his laptop open and his phone charging beside him. Kovac and Driscoll were in the kitchen making coffee. Richard Wright had left an hour ago, driven back to D.C. by another member of his security team. He'd wanted to stay, but Brill had told him it was a bad idea. Fathers got emotional. Emotional people made mistakes. Wright had understood. Or maybe he'd just been too tired to argue. Brill opened a browser and logged into a server most people didn't know existed. The kind of server that lived in countries with flexible extradition policies and administrators who took payment in cryptocurrency. He typed in Rico's phone number and waited. The search came back with a name. Ricardo Munoz, 26 years old. Born in Hialeah, 2 arrests for possession, both dismissed. 1 restraining order filed by an ex-girlfriend 3 years ago. Current address listed as an apartment complex in Little Havana. Brill pulled up Ricardo's Facebook. The account was still active. Privacy settings were loose. People always made it too easy. Photos of Ricardo at clubs. Ricardo with bottles of Grey Goose. Ricardo with his arm around girls in tight dresses. Every photo had the same caption style. Living the dream, and Miami nights, and VIP treatment. The comments were always from young women. Heart emojis, fire emojis. When you gonna call me and take me out again? He was a predator with a social media presence. The modern version of the same old story. Brill scrolled through Ricardo's friends list. 300 people. Most of them women under 25. Some of them were tagged at colleges. Georgetown, FSU, University of Miami, spring break hunting grounds. One name caught his attention. Carlito Vega, 32 years old. Multiple arrests, assault. Drug trafficking, weapons possession. Currently on probation. His profile picture showed him leaning against a black Escalade with his shirt unbuttoned to his navel. Gold chains, tribal tattoos. The kind of guy who thought Scarface was a documentary. Brill clicked through Carlito's photos. Most of them were old. The account hadn't been updated in 6 months. But there was one photo from 2 months ago that made Brill stop scrolling. Carlito standing in front of a storage facility. The sign in the background read, Homestead Self-Storage, 24-hour access. Brill zoomed in on the photo. Behind Carlito, partially visible in the frame, was a white panel van. He saved the image and ran it through enhancement software. The license plate was blurry but readable. He ran the plate. Stolen. Reported missing from a plumbing company in Hialeah 5 weeks ago. Same van. Had to be. Brill leaned back in his chair. The pieces were coming together. Ricardo was the face. The club promoter who lured girls in with promises of exclusive parties. Carlito was the muscle, the guy who did the actual work. But who were they working for? He opened a new search window and typed in Carlito Vega's known associates. The list populated. Small-time dealers, enforcers, a few names with connections to human trafficking operations that ran between Miami and the islands. One name appeared 3 times across different police reports. Enzo Ruiz. Brill pulled up Enzo's file. 38 years old. No convictions, but plenty of arrests. Suspected involvement in trafficking, money laundering, weapons sales. The kind of operator who stayed just clean enough to avoid prison, but dirty enough to make serious money. Enzo's last known address was a condo in Brickell. Brill memorized it. His phone buzzed, a text from a number he didn't recognize. Ricardo Munoz, Works at Babylon nightclub in Wynwood Wednesday through Saturday. Usually shows up around 10 p.m. The text was from Simon, the hacker. Brill had sent him Rico's name an hour ago with a single word. Location. Simon always delivered. Brill checked his watch. 4 in the afternoon. 6 hours until Ricardo showed up for work. He stood and walked into the kitchen. Kovac looked up from his coffee. I found him, Brill said. Rico? He works at a club in Wynwood. I'm going there tonight. Kovac set his mug down. I'll come with you. No. You might need backup. I won't. Driscoll leaned against the counter with his arms crossed. You're going into a nightclub to grab a dealer? You know how many witnesses that is? I'm not grabbing him at the club. Then what's the play? Brill looked at both of them. Kovac with his Secret Service training and his rigid protocols. Driscoll with his by-the-book approach and his concern about witnesses. They were good at what they did, but what they did wasn't what Brill needed right now. I'm going to watch him, Brill said. See where he goes, who he talks to. Then I'm going to follow him until he's alone. And then? Then I'm going to ask him some questions. Kovac's jaw tightened. We need him alive. If Rico ends up dead, he'll be alive. I need him to talk. Dead men don't talk. Chief of Staff wants this clean. No bodies, no headlines, no complications. Brill walked to the sink and filled a glass with water. He drank it slowly. Outside the window, the ocean rolled in against the seawall. Endless, patient, indifferent to human concerns. Madison's been gone 58 hours, Brill said. Every hour that passes, the odds get worse. If she's being moved out of the country, we've got maybe 2 days before she's gone forever. I don't have time to be clean. Kovac and Driscoll exchanged a look. Some silent conversation between men who'd worked together long enough to communicate without words. All right, Kovac said. But stay in contact. Check in every 2 hours. If something goes sideways, we need to know. Brill nodded. He wouldn't check in every 2 hours. He wouldn't check in at all, but they needed to believe he would. He went to the bedroom he'd been given and opened his go bag. The Glock was still broken down in pieces wrapped in a towel. He assembled it on the bed, checked the action, loaded a magazine. The weight of it felt right in his hand. Familiar, like shaking hands with an old friend who'd saved your life a few times. He tucked the Glock into his waistband at the small of his back and pulled his shirt over it. His phone buzzed again. Another text from Simon. Ricardo drives a silver Audi A4, plate 7TRX463, parks behind the club in the employee lot. Brill texted back. Need an address for Carlito Vega, current. 3 minutes later, Simon replied with an address in Little Havana, an apartment complex on Calle Ocho. Brill grabbed his keys and walked back through the house. Kovac and Driscoll were still in the kitchen, talking in low voices. They stopped when they saw him. You leaving now? Kovac asked. Doing some recon first. I'll hit the club around 10. You want a vehicle? We've got a rental. Something that doesn't stand out. I've got my own. Brill walked out before Kovac could offer anything else. The Honda was parked in the driveway. He climbed in and started the engine. Wynwood was 20 minutes away in traffic. The club wouldn't open for hours, but Brill wanted to see the layout, know the exits, know where Rico parked and how he'd move when he left. He pulled out onto the street and headed toward the causeway. The sun was starting to drop toward the horizon. The sky was going orange and pink, the kind of sunset that tourists paid money to see from restaurant patios and rooftop bars. Brill didn't notice. He was thinking about Ricardo Munoz, about the way predators like him operated, the way they smiled and bought drinks and promised adventure, the way they delivered girls to men like Carlito Vega. Tonight, Ricardo would walk out of Babylon nightclub and get into his silver Audi, and Brill would be waiting. He merged onto I-95 and pushed the Honda up to 70. The city blurred past, concrete and palm trees and billboard advertisements for plastic surgeons and personal injury lawyers. Somewhere out there, Madison Wright was running out of time. Brill pressed harder on the gas. Wynwood was all murals and warehouses converted into galleries and restaurants with names like Koyo Taco and KYU. Brill drove through the neighborhood twice before he found Babylon. It sat on a side street between a coffee roaster and a store that sold vintage clothing. The building was painted matte black with purple neon running along the roofline. No windows. One door in front. A velvet rope that wasn't up yet. He drove past and turned into an alley that ran behind the building. The employee lot was exactly where Simon said it would be. 8 parking spaces. A dumpster. A steel door with a security camera above it. Brill memorized the angles and kept driving. He circled back to the main street and found a spot 2 blocks away where he could watch the front entrance. Then he settled in to wait. Waiting was something Brill was good at. He'd spent 3 days in a car in Karachi once, watching a bomb maker's apartment. He'd spent a week in the Afghan mountains waiting for a warlord to make a mistake. The body learned to go still. The mind learned to stay sharp without burning energy. At 6 o'clock, workers started arriving. Kitchen staff, bartenders. Security guys built like refrigerators. They used the back entrance. At 7, the sun dropped below the buildings, and the streetlights came on. At 8, a silver Audi A4 pulled into the alley. Brill started the Honda and followed at a distance. He watched the Audi turn into the employee lot. Through the gap between buildings, he saw Ricardo get out. Skinny jeans, white sneakers, a shirt with palm trees on it, hair gelled back. He looked like every other club promoter in Miami. Interchangeable, disposable. Ricardo walked to the back door and went inside. Brill checked his watch. If Ricardo worked until closing, he wouldn't come out until 4 or 5 in the morning. That was too long. Madison didn't have that kind of time. He pulled out his phone and opened the map. Carlito Vega's address in Little Havana was 12 minutes away. Brill put the Honda in gear and headed west. Little Havana smelled like cigars and fried plantains and motor oil. The apartment complex was on Calle Ocho, squeezed between a botanica and a tire shop. 3 stories of peeling yellow paint and rusted balconies. Laundry hung on lines. A group of old men played dominoes at a folding table in the courtyard. Salsa music drifted from an open window. Brill parked across the street and studied the building. 12 units, no security gate, no cameras that he could see. Carlito lived in 2B, according to Simon's information. He got out and crossed the street. The old men looked up from their dominoes. One of them said something in Spanish. The others laughed. Brill kept walking. The stairwell smelled like garbage and bleach. He climbed to the 2nd floor and found 2B at the end of the hall. Music thumped behind the door. Reggaeton, loud enough to rattle the hinges. Brill knocked. The music didn't stop, but he heard movement inside. Footsteps. A voice calling out something he couldn't make out. The door opened 6 inches. A chain lock held it. A face appeared in the gap. Not Carlito. Younger, maybe 20, shirtless. Tattoos across his chest and down both arms. Kikiris. I'm looking for Carlito. He's not here. When will he be back? I don't know, man. Who are you? Brill put his hand on the door. Not pushing, just resting it there. I need to talk to him. It's important. The kid's eyes narrowed. You a cop? No. Then get the fuck out of here. The kid tried to close the door. Brill's boot was already in the gap. The door bounced off his foot and the chain lock snapped. The door swung open and Brill was inside before the kid could process what was happening. The apartment was small, kitchen on the left, living room straight ahead, 2 doors that probably led to bedrooms. The furniture looked like it came from a thrift store. Beer cans on the coffee table, an ashtray overflowing with cigarette butts. The kid backed up. His hand went to his waistband. Brill saw the gun before the kid's fingers reached it. Don't, Brill said. The kid froze. Something in Brill's voice cut through the bravado. Something that said this wasn't a negotiation. Where's Carlito? Brill asked. I told you, man. He's not here. Where is he? I don't know. He left this morning. Said he had business. What kind of business? He doesn't tell me shit. I just crash here sometimes.
Brill walked deeper into the apartment. The kid stayed by the door, his hand still hovering near his waistband. Brill opened the first bedroom door. Unmade bed, clothes on the floor. A mirror on the dresser with white residue around the edges. The second bedroom was locked. Open it, Brill said. I don't have a key. Brill looked at the kid. The kid looked away. Brill kicked the door. The frame splintered and the door swung open. Inside was a small office. A desk, a laptop, papers stacked in messy piles. On the wall was a whiteboard covered in names and numbers. Some of the names had been erased, but the ghost traces were still visible. Brill scanned the board. Most of it was drug business, quantities and prices and delivery dates. But at the bottom, written in red marker, were 4 words that made his pulse quicken. MW Storage, $50,000, Madison Wright. Brill pulled out his phone and took a picture of the whiteboard. Then he turned to the desk and started opening drawers. The first one had pens and papers and a box of condoms. The second had a Glock 26 and 3 magazines. The third had a ledger. He flipped through it, page after page of transactions. Dates and amounts and initials. 2 weeks ago there was an entry that read, MW deposit $25,000. Someone had paid Carlito $25,000 as a deposit. For Madison. Brill took photos of the pages. Then, he closed the ledger and walked back to the living room. The kid was gone. The front door stood open. Brill heard footsteps pounding down the stairs. He didn't chase him. The kid didn't matter. What mattered was the ledger, the whiteboard, the proof that this was a transaction. Madison had been sold. Brill walked out of the apartment and down the stairs. The old men were still playing dominoes. One of them looked up and met Brill's eyes. The old man's expression didn't change, but he nodded once. Slow, like a man who'd seen enough in his life to know when to stay quiet. Brill got in the Honda and pulled up the photo of the whiteboard on his phone. MW Storage, $50,000. Storage. Where? He opened his photos and found the image he'd saved earlier. Carlito standing in front of Homestead, self-storage. The white van in the background. That was where they'd taken her, at least at first. Brill started the engine and plugged the address into his phone. Homestead was 40 minutes south. Far enough from Miami Beach to be isolated. Close enough to move product quickly.
He pulled onto Calle Ocho and headed for the highway. The sun was completely gone now. The city lights were coming on. Neon and sodium vapor and the glow of headlights on asphalt. Miami after dark, when the predators came out to hunt. Brill merged onto the turnpike and pushed the Honda to 80. He thought about Madison Wright, 19 years old, probably terrified, possibly drugged, definitely alone. He thought about the ledger entry. $25,000 down, $50,000 total. That was the price someone had put on her. And somewhere in Miami, Carlito Vega was moving around, conducting his business, thinking he was safe. He wasn't safe. Nobody who touched Madison Wright was safe anymore. Brill's hands tightened on the wheel. The highway stretched out ahead, ribbon of concrete cutting through the darkness. He pressed the gas pedal to the floor. Homestead Self-Storage sat on a dead-end road between a scrapyard and an abandoned gas station. Brill drove past twice. The facility was bigger than he'd expected, maybe 200 units spread across 3 buildings. Chain-link fence around the perimeter, a gate at the entrance with a keypad, security lights on poles every 50 feet, one small office near the front with a light on inside. He parked the Honda a quarter-mile down the road and walked back through the darkness. The air was cooler out here, away from the coast, away from the city. Just flat land and the sound of crickets and the occasional truck passing on the distant highway. The fence was 8 feet high, topped with barbed wire. Brill followed it around to the back of the property where the shadows were deepest. He found a spot where the fence met a concrete wall, climbed the wall and used it to get over the barbed wire without shredding himself. He dropped into the facility and crouched in the darkness. Waited, listened. Nothing moved. No dogs, no guards, just the hum of the security lights and the tick of cooling metal from the storage units. Brill moved between the buildings, staying low. The units were numbered, but not in any order that made sense. He saw 147 next to 203, next to 089. the kind of system that only made sense to whoever set it up. He needed the office, needed the records, needed to know which unit Carlito had rented. The office was a small modular building with windows on 3 sides. Through the glass, Brill could see a man sitting at a desk, 50-something, bald, watching something on a small television. A half-eaten sandwich sat on a paper plate beside him. Brill circled around to the back of the office. There was a door, no window, a simple lock. He pulled out his picks. The lock was cheap, hardware store grade. It opened in 30 seconds. Brill slipped inside. He was in a storage room, cleaning supplies, a mop bucket, boxes of paper towels. A door led to the front office. He moved to the door and looked through the gap. The manager was still at his desk, his back to Brill. The television was showing a soccer game. The volume was turned up loud enough that the man wouldn't hear footsteps. Brill crossed the room in 3 steps. His arm went around the manager's throat. Locked tight, cutting off blood to the brain. The man struggled for 5 seconds, then went limp. Brill lowered him to the floor and checked his pulse. Strong and steady. He'd be out for a few minutes, maybe less. He turned to the desk. There was a computer, but it was password protected. File cabinets lined the wall. Brill opened the top drawer. Rental agreements. Alphabetized. He flipped to V. Nothing under Vega. He tried M for Munoz. Nothing. The manager groaned. His eyes fluttered. Brill needed more time. He grabbed a roll of duct tape from the storage room and taped the manager's wrists and ankles, slapped a piece over his mouth. The man's eyes opened, wide and terrified. Brill put a finger to his lips. "Stay quiet," he said. "Don't make me hurt you." The manager nodded. Brill went back to the file cabinet. If Carlito was smart, he'd have rented the unit under a fake name. But guys like Carlito usually weren't that smart. He opened the second drawer. More rental agreements. These were organized by unit number instead of name. Brill pulled out his phone and looked at the photo of Carlito standing in front of the storage facility. He zoomed in on the building behind him. There was a number visible on the nearest unit. 178. He flipped through the files until he found Unit 178. The rental agreement was signed by someone named Miguel Torres, but the handwriting looked rushed, sloppy, and the address listed was the apartment on Calle Ocho, Carlito's apartment. Brill photographed the agreement and put it back. Unit 178 was in Building C. He'd passed it on the way to the office. He looked down at the manager. The man was breathing hard through his nose. His eyes tracked Brill's every movement. "I'm going to leave now," Brill said. "When I'm gone, you're going to wait 10 minutes before you try to get loose. Understand?" The manager nodded. "If you call the police in the next hour, I'll come back. And you won't like what happens when I come back." The manager nodded again. Faster this time. Brill walked out the back door and into the darkness. He moved between the buildings until he found C. The units here were bigger. Storage for boats and RVs. Roll-up doors tall enough to drive a truck through. Unit 178 was at the end. The door was secured with a padlock the size of a fist. Brill examined it. Industrial grade. The kind of lock that would take 20 minutes to pick. Maybe longer. He didn't have 20 minutes. He went back to the office and searched the storage room. Found a toolbox. Inside was a crowbar. He carried it back to Unit 178 and wedged it into the gap between the door and the frame, leveraged his weight against it. The metal groaned. The lock held. Brill repositioned the crowbar and tried again. The frame bent. The lock still held. He stepped back and looked at the door. Thought about the layout. About how these units were built. Corrugated metal on a steel frame, strong from the front, weaker on the sides. He moved to the side panel and examined the seam where 2 sheets of metal joined. There were rivets every foot. He used the crowbar to pry at the seam. 1 rivet popped, then another, then 3 more. The metal sheet bent outward. Brill pulled it wider, created a gap just big enough to squeeze through. He pulled out his phone and turned on the flashlight, shined it through the gap. The unit was empty. No van, no equipment, no Madison, just zip ties on the floor. And a syringe, and the smell of urine and fear. Brill climbed through the gap. His boots crunched on concrete. The space was maybe 20 feet deep and 15 feet wide. In the back corner was a folding chair, stains on the floor that might have been blood. She'd been here. Madison had been here. But she was gone now. Brill photographed everything, the zip ties, the syringe, the stains. Then he climbed back out through the gap in the metal. He walked quickly toward the back fence. Behind him he heard shouting. The manager had gotten free, or maybe someone had found him. Brill didn't look back. He scaled the fence at the same spot he'd entered, dropped to the ground on the other side, jogged back to the Honda through the darkness. He climbed in and started the engine, pulled onto the road without turning on his headlights, drove half a mile before he flipped them on. His phone buzzed, a text from Kovac. "Check in. Where are you?" Brill ignored it. He pulled up his contacts and called Simon. Simon answered on the second ring. "Yeah. I need you to find someone. Carlito Vega. I need to know where he is right now." "That's going to take time." "I don't have time. Madison Wright was in a storage unit in Homestead. Now she's not. Carlito moved her. I need to know where." The line went quiet for a few seconds. Brill could hear Simon typing. "Give me 30 minutes, Simon said. "You've got 20. Brill ended the call and headed back toward Miami. The highway was empty, just him in the darkness and the broken white lines stretching into the distance. He thought about the storage unit, about how scared Madison must have been, about how long she'd been there before they moved her. The ledger said $50,000, 25 down, 25 on delivery. Delivery meant she was being moved somewhere else, out of the country probably, the Bahamas, the Caribbean, somewhere she'd disappear forever. Brill pressed harder on the gas. The Honda's engine whined. His phone rang. Simon. "That was fast," Brill said. "Carlito's phone is pinging off a tower in Little Havana. He's at a nightclub called Mango's. Has been for the last 2 hours." "What about associates? Anyone connected to trafficking?" "Yeah. Name's Enzo Ruiz. Big player. Runs girls through the islands. Carlito's done work for him before." "Where's Enzo?" "No idea. His phone's off. But I pulled his credit cards. He's got a yacht. Docked at Dinner Key Marina, 42-foot Sea Ray, registered to a shell company." A yacht. Perfect for moving cargo. Perfect for disappearing. "Send me the marina address," Brill said. "Already did." Brill checked his phone. The address was there, 15 minutes away. "Thanks, Simon." "One more thing. Enzo's got a flight booked, tomorrow night, 9 p.m. to Nassau. One way. Tomorrow night. That meant Madison was being moved tomorrow. Maybe earlier." Brill ended the call and changed direction. He took the exit for Coconut Grove and headed toward the marina. The clock was running down. Madison Wright had maybe 24 hours left before she vanished forever. Brill intended to find her before then. Dinner Key. Marina sprawled along the shoreline like a small floating city. Brill parked the Honda in a public lot near the entrance and walked toward the docks. It was past midnight. The marina office was closed. Security was a single guard in a booth at the gate, old and bored and playing something on his phone. Brill walked past like he belonged there. The guard didn't look up. The docks stretched out into Biscayne Bay in long fingers. Boats of every size lined both sides. Sailboats, sport fishers, cabin cruisers, some dark and empty, others showing signs of life, music from a party boat in the distance, laughter carrying across the water. Brill pulled out his phone and checked the information Simon had sent. Enzo's yacht was a 42-foot Sea Ray named Lucky Strike, slip D27. He walked down the main dock until he found the D section. The slips here were for bigger boats, more expensive, the kind that cost more than most people's houses. D27 was near the end. The Sea Ray sat low in the water, white hull, dark windows, A flying bridge on top with a helm station, navigation lights off, no movement on deck. Brill approached slowly, stayed in the shadows between the dock lights, listened. He could hear the water lapping against the hulls, the creak of dock lines, music from the party boat, but nothing from the Sea Ray. He stepped closer, looked through the windows of the main cabin, dark inside, too dark to see anything. The boat had two ways in. The door to the main cabin was locked, but there was also a door to the aft deck. Brill tried it, unlocked. He opened it slowly, stepped inside, pulled the Glock from his waistband and held it low. The aft deck had bench seating and a table. Steps led down into the main cabin. Brill descended. His eyes adjusted to the darkness. The cabin was luxury. Leather seating, teak floors, a galley kitchen, a flat-screen TV mounted to the wall. Everything clean and expensive and maintained, but empty. Brill moved through the cabin toward the forward berth. The door was closed. He put his ear to it, heard breathing, slow and steady. Someone sleeping. He tested the handle. Unlocked. He pushed the door open. The Glock came up. The berth had a V-shaped bed built into the bow, 2 people in it. A man and a woman, both naked under the sheets. The man was on his back, snoring. The woman was curled against him. Brill crossed the space in 2 steps, put the Glock to the man's temple. The cold steel woke him faster than any alarm. The man's eyes flew open, his mouth opened to yell. Brill's hand clamped over it. "Make a sound and you die," Brill said. The woman was awake now. She started to scream. Brill pointed the Glock at her. She stopped. Her eyes went wide with terror. "Who are you?" the man said. His voice was muffled under Brill's hand. Brill took his hand away but kept the gun in place. "Where's Madison Wright?" "I don't know who that is." Wrong answer. Brill pressed the Glock harder against the man's skull. The man's breathing accelerated. "I swear, man, I don't know anyone named Madison." "You're Enzo Ruiz." "Yeah, so what?" "So Carlito Vega delivered a girl to you 3 days ago, 19 years old, dark hair. Where is she?" "I don't know what you're talking about." The woman was crying now. Quiet sobs that shook her shoulders. She pulled the sheet up to her chin. Brill looked at her. "What's your name?" "Jessica," she whispered. "Jessica, get dressed and leave." "Don't hurt him. Please." "I won't if he tells me what I want to know. Get dressed." Jessica scrambled out of the bed. She grabbed clothes from the floor, pulled them on without turning around. Then she ran. Brill heard her footsteps on the stairs, heard the aft door open and close. He looked back at Enzo. "Now it's just us. Let's try again. Where's Madison Wright?" "I told you I don't know." Brill hit him with the Glock. Not hard enough to knock him out, just hard enough to open a cut above his eye. Blood ran down Enzo's face. Enzo gasped. His hand went to the cut, came away red. "You're going to tell me," Brill said. "The only question is how much pain you go through first." "Okay." "Okay." Enzo's voice was shaking now. "There was a girl. Carlito brought her, but I don't have her anymore." "Where is she?" "I moved her to a warehouse. She's being held there until transport." "Where's the warehouse?" 27th Avenue, near the airport. It's a tile distributor. We use the back section for storage." "Storage? You mean holding girls?" Enzo didn't answer. He just looked at Brill with fear in his eyes. "How many girls are there?" 4, maybe 5. I don't keep track." "Madison's one of them?" "Yeah, dark hair, pretty. Scared out of her mind." "When are you moving them?" "Tomorrow night. There's a boat coming from Nassau. We load them on and they're gone." "Who's buying them?" Enzo hesitated. Brill raised the Glock. "A guy named Locke, Grayson Locke. He's an American, lives in the Bahamas. He's got money, a lot of it. He likes young American girls, white girls, College girls. He pays premium for them. How much for Madison? 50,000. He wanted her specifically. Saw her on Instagram, sent Carlito screenshots, said she was exactly his type. Brill felt something cold settle in his chest. Madison hadn't been grabbed at random. She'd been selected, hunted, ordered like a meal from a menu. This warehouse, Brill said. How many guys do you have there? 4, sometimes 6. They rotate. Armed? Of course they're armed. We're not idiots. Cameras? Yeah, full coverage. You can't get in there. Brill smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. I'm going to get in there, and when I do, those 4 guys aren't going to stop me. You know how I know? Enzo shook his head. Because they're not expecting me, and by the time they figure out what's happening, it'll be too late. You're crazy. You can't just walk into a warehouse and... Brill hit him again. Harder this time. Enzo's head snapped back. His eyes rolled. He slumped against the headboard, dazed. Give me your phone, Brill said. Enzo fumbled on the nightstand, found his phone, handed it over. Brill opened it. No passcode. He scrolled through the contacts, found one labeled warehouse, memorized the number. Then he opened the photos, scrolled until he found what he was looking for. Pictures of girls, dozens of them, all young, all scared. Some of them were in the same storage unit Brill had found in Homestead. Others were in different locations. One photo showed 4 girls in a windowless room. Madison was one of them. She was sitting on the floor with her knees pulled to her chest. Her hair was tangled. Her eyes were vacant. Drugged, probably, but alive. Brill took a screenshot and sent it to his own phone. Then he deleted the message from Enzo's sent folder. He looked at Enzo. The man was bleeding from 2 cuts now. His face was pale. You're going to call your guys at the warehouse, Brill said. You're going to tell them to bring all the girls out to the loading dock at 3 a.m. Tell them you're moving up the schedule. Tell them the boat's coming early. They won't believe me. Make them believe you. Brill handed Enzo the phone, put the Glock against his ribs. Enzo dialed. The phone rang twice. Someone answered. Yeah, boss? It's me. Change of plans. Bring all the girls out to the loading dock at 3 a.m. The boat's coming early. 3 a.m.? That's less than 2 hours. I know what time it is. Just do it. Get them ready. I'll be there. You coming yourself? Yeah. Something came up. Just have them ready. Okay, boss. Whatever you say. Enzo ended the call, looked at Brill. Now what? Now you tell me the security code for the warehouse, and the alarm system, and how many men will actually be there tonight. 4 guys. The code is 7823. The alarm disables automatically when you punch it in, but you're still not getting out of there alive. We'll see. Brill stood. He looked around the cabin. Expensive, clean, the kind of place that represented the profits from selling human beings. He thought about burning it, about watching Enzo's little floating palace sink into the bay. But that would draw attention. Cops, fire rescue, questions. He needed to stay invisible for a few more hours. You're going to stay on this boat until morning, Brill said. If you call anyone, if you warn anyone, if you do anything besides sit here and bleed, I'm going to come back. And next time I won't be asking questions. Enzo nodded. He believed it. Brill could see it in his eyes. Brill walked out of the berth, back through the main cabin, up the stairs to the aft deck. He stepped onto the dock and looked back at the sea ray. Tomorrow night, Enzo had a flight to Nassau. He wouldn't make it. By tomorrow night, Enzo would be explaining to the police why he had photos of kidnapped girls on his phone. Or maybe he wouldn't be explaining anything. Maybe he'd just disappear. Brill hadn't decided yet. He walked back down the dock toward the parking lot. The guard in the booth was still playing on his phone, still not paying attention. Brill got in the Honda and checked the time. 1:45 a.m. The warehouse was 20 minutes away. He had until 3 o'clock to get there, to scout it, to find the weak points. 4 guards, cameras, girls being held in a back room. Brill started the engine. The warehouse sat on 27th Avenue behind a chain-link fence with razor wire on top. Brill drove past it once. The building was concrete block, painted industrial beige, no windows on the ground floor. A rolling garage door in front with Supreme Tile Distributors stenciled across it. A smaller door beside it. Security lights on the corners of the building. 1 car in the lot. A black Escalade. He turned around and parked 3 blocks away in a lot behind a closed auto parts store. Killed the engine and sat in the darkness. The photo from Enzo's phone was still on his screen. Madison sitting on the floor, hollow-eyed, broken but breathing. Brill looked at the time, 2:15 a.m. 45 minutes until Enzo's men brought the girls to the loading dock. He got out of the Honda and opened the trunk. Inside was a toolbox he kept for situations like this. Bolt cutters, a pry bar, zip ties, duct tape, a suppressor for the Glock. He screwed the suppressor on and tucked the gun back in his waistband. Then he walked toward the warehouse. The neighborhood was industrial, closed businesses. Empty parking lots, no traffic. The kind of place where you could hear a gunshot and nobody would call the police because nobody wanted to get involved. Brill approached from the side, stayed in the shadows. The fence ran the perimeter of the property. He followed it to the back where the loading dock was located. 3 concrete bays, roll-up doors on each one. A semi could back into any of them and load cargo without being seen from the street. Perfect for moving girls. Brill used the bolt cutters on the fence. The chain link parted with a sound like breaking piano wire. He slipped through and moved toward the building. There was a door next to the loading bays. Steel. No window. A keypad beside it. He punched in the code Enzo had given him, 7823. The lock clicked. A green light appeared on the keypad. Brill pulled the door open and stepped inside. He was in a hallway. Concrete floors, fluorescent lights overhead, the smell of tile adhesive and cardboard. To his left was the warehouse floor. Pallets of tile stacked to the ceiling. Forklifts parked in neat rows. To his right was a corridor that led deeper into the building. Brill went right. The corridor opened into a break room. Table and chairs, microwave, coffee maker. 2 men sat at the table playing cards. Both had guns on their hips, revolvers in leather holsters. They looked up when Brill walked in. "Who the hell are you?" one of them said. Brill shot him in the chest. The suppressed Glock made a sound like a book slamming shut. The man fell backward out of his chair. The second man went for his gun. Brill shot him twice, center mass. The man crashed into the wall and slid down it, leaving a red streak on the painted cinder block. Brill kept moving. A door at the end of the break room led to another hallway. This one had offices on both sides, all of them empty. At the end was a metal door with a deadbolt. He tried the handle. Locked. He could hear voices on the other side, men talking, the sound of someone crying. Brill stepped back and kicked the door. The frame splintered. The door flew open. He was in a large room, 20 feet by 30. No windows, cots along one wall. A chemical toilet in the corner. 4 girls sitting on the floor, 3 men standing over them. Everyone froze. One of the men recovered first. He went for his gun. Brill shot him in the head. The man dropped like a puppet with cut strings. The second man raised his hands. "Wait! Wait!" Brill shot him in the throat. The man gurgled and fell. The third man bolted for a door on the opposite wall. Brill tracked him with the Glock. Fired once. The bullet took the man in the back of the knee. He went down, screaming. Brill crossed the room in 4 strides. Put the Glock to the man's head. "How many more?" Brill asked. Just us, the man gasped. Just the three of us. Please, man. Where's the fourth guy? He left. He's not here tonight, I swear. Brill pulled the trigger. The man's head snapped to the side and went still. The room was quiet except for the sound of crying. Brill turned to look at the girls. 4 of them. All young, all terrified. They stared at him like he was something that had crawled out of a nightmare. She looked worse in person than in the photo. Brill lowered the gun. Madison right? She didn't respond, just stared at him with empty eyes. One of the other girls spoke, Hispanic. Maybe 20. She can't hear you. They drugged her. They drugged all of us. Can you walk? I think so. Then stand up. All of you. The girls struggled to their feet. Madison needed help. The Hispanic girl and another girl pulled her up. Listen to me, Brill said. I'm going to get you out of here. But you need to do exactly what I say. Understand? 3 of them nodded. Madison just stared. Brill went to the door and looked out into the hallway. Empty. He could hear the hum of the building, the drip of water somewhere. Nothing else. He went back to the girls. We're leaving through the loading dock. Stay behind me. Stay quiet. If I tell you to run, you run. Don't look back. Don't stop. Just run. Clear? They nodded again. Brill led them out into the hallway. They moved slowly. Madison could barely walk. The Hispanic girl and the other girl held her up between them. They went back through the break room. The 2 dead men were still on the floor. One of the girls made a sound. Brill turned and put a finger to his lips. They continued to the door that led to the loading dock. Brill opened it slowly and looked out. The loading bays were empty. The roll-up doors were closed. No vehicles. No people. He led the girls out onto the concrete. The night air hit them, cool and clean after the smell of the holding room. Where are we going? The Hispanic girl asked. My car. 3 blocks that way. Brill pointed. You're going to walk fast, but not run. Running draws attention. You see anyone, you keep your head down and keep walking. Got it? What about you? I'll be right behind you. They started walking. Brill hung back, kept watch. The street was empty, but he knew that could change in a second. They made it 1 block, then 2. Madison stumbled. The girls caught her, kept her moving. At the 3rd block, Brill directed them to the Honda. He unlocked it and opened the back doors. Get in. They climbed in. All 4 of them crammed into the back seat. Madison in the middle. The other girls pressed against her to keep her upright. Brill got behind the wheel and started the engine. Pulled out of the lot and headed toward the highway. Nobody spoke. The girls just sat there breathing, processing what had just happened, that they were alive, that they were out. Brill looked at Madison in the rearview mirror. She was leaning against the Hispanic girl. Her eyes were half closed, still drugged, still somewhere far away, but alive. He pulled out his phone and called Kovac. It rang 4 times before Kovac answered. Where the hell have you been? Kovac's voice was tight with anger. You were supposed to check in. I have Madison. I'm bringing her to the beach house. The line went silent for a moment. Then Kovac said, You have her? She's alive? She's alive. Drugged, but alive. I'm bringing her in now. Have a doctor there, and call the chief of staff. Tell him his daughter's coming home. Jesus. Okay, yeah, I'll make the calls. How far out are you? 30 minutes. Brill ended the call. He glanced in the rearview mirror again. The Hispanic girl was looking at him. Who are you? She asked. Nobody, Brill said. Just someone who came to get Madison. What about us? You're safe now. When we get to where we're going, they'll help you. Get you home. Get you whatever you need. The girl nodded. Tears were running down her face. "Thank you." Brill didn't respond. He just drove. The highway was empty. Just him and the girls and the broken white lines stretching into the darkness. Behind them, 4 men were dead in a warehouse. Enzo was bleeding on his yacht. Carlito was still out there somewhere, not knowing yet that his operation had just collapsed. And in Nassau, Grayson Locke was probably sleeping, dreaming about the girls who were supposed to arrive tomorrow. Those girls weren't coming, but Brill was. He merged onto I-95 and headed north toward Bal Harbor. The beach house was lit up like a landing strip when Brill pulled into the driveway. Kovac stood at the front door. Another man was with him, older, gray suit, medical bag, the doctor. Brill got out and opened the back door of the Honda. The girls climbed out slowly. Madison had to be helped. Her legs barely worked. Kovac came down the steps. He looked at Madison, and something passed across his face. Relief. Maybe guilt that it had taken this long. "Get her inside," the doctor said. He was already moving toward Madison. "All of them. I need to examine them." They went into the house. The living room had been set up like a triage center. Blankets, water bottles, a stretcher leaning against the wall. The doctor guided Madison to the couch. She sat down heavily, her head lolled to the side. "What did they give her?" the doctor asked. "I don't know," Brill said. "Something to keep her compliant. She's been like this since I found her." The doctor opened his bag, pulled out a pen light and checked Madison's pupils. Then he felt her pulse, her breathing. "Benzodiazepines, probably. Maybe ketamine. She'll need fluids. And time. But she'll come out of it." The other 3 girls sat on chairs near the window. The Hispanic girl was the only one who seemed alert. The other 2 were in shock, staring at nothing. Kovac pulled Brill aside. "What happened at the warehouse?" "I got them out." "I can see that. I'm asking how." "Does it matter?" "Yeah, it matters. If you left a mess, we need to know about it." Brill looked at him. Kovac held his gaze for a moment, then looked away. 4 men, Brill said. "All dead. The girls were being held in a back room. I got them out through the loading dock." 4 men. Jesus Christ. Kovac rubbed his face. "The chief of staff is on his way. He'll be here in 3 hours. He's flying down on a private jet." "Good. He can take Madison home." "What about the other girls?" "Call whoever handles that. FBI, State Department. I don't care, just get them help." Kovac nodded. He pulled out his phone and walked into the kitchen. Brill went to the couch. The doctor was setting up an IV. Madison's arm was extended. Her eyes were open now, but unfocused. "Can she hear me?" Brill asked. "Maybe. She's in and out." Brill crouched down beside the couch. "Madison, my name is Brill. Your father sent me to find you. You're safe now. You understand?" Madison's eyes moved toward his voice. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. "Don't try to talk," Brill said. "Just rest. You're going home." A tear ran down her cheek. Her hand moved slightly. Brill took it, held it for a moment. Her fingers were cold. He stood and walked to the window. Outside, the ocean was dark. The sky was starting to lighten in the east. Dawn was maybe an hour away. His phone buzzed. A text from Simon. "Carlito left Mango's 20 minutes ago. Headed south on I-95. Tracking him now." Brill texted back. "Where's he going?" 3 dots appeared. Then Simon's response. "Looks like Homestead. Maybe the storage facility." Carlito was going to check on the merchandise. He didn't know yet that the merchandise was gone, that 4 of his men were dead, that his entire operation had collapsed. Brill typed back, "Keep tracking him. Let me know where he stops." He pocketed the phone and turned back to the room. The doctor had the IV running. Madison's color was already better. The other girls were drinking water, eating crackers that Driscoll had brought them. Kovac came back from the kitchen. FBI is sending a team. They'll be here in an hour. They'll take the other 3 girls into protective custody. Get them processed. Get them home. What about Madison? Her father wants her on his plane. He's taking her straight to Walter Reed. Full medical workup, full psych evaluation. She'll get the best care. And what happens to everyone involved in this? Kovac looked uncomfortable. That's above my pay grade. Enzo Ruiz, Grayson Locke, they're still out there. FBI will handle it. Once they have statements from the girls, FBI will take 6 months and these guys will disappear. Locke's in the Bahamas. Enzo's got money and connections. They'll lawyer up and walk. That's not our problem. Brill stepped closer. Kovac was a big man, but he took a half step back. It's my problem, Brill said. Madison was a transaction. Someone ordered her like room service. Locke wanted her specifically, picked her out on Instagram, paid $50,000 for her. You think he's going to stop? You think he won't just order another girl next month? What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that some problems don't get solved in courtrooms. Kovac's jaw tightened. You're talking about going after them yourself. I'm talking about finishing this. Your job was to find Madison. You found her. You're done. I'm done when they're all dead. The room went quiet. The doctor looked up from the IV. Driscoll had stopped pouring water. Everyone was looking at Brill. Kovac lowered his voice. You can't just kill everyone involved. That's not how this works. That's exactly how this works. Men like Enzo and Locke don't stop because they get arrested. They stop when they're dead. The chief of staff won't authorize that. I'm not asking for authorization. Brill's phone buzzed. Another text from Simon. Carlito just pulled into the storage facility in Homestead. He's inside now. Perfect. Brill looked at Kovac. I'm leaving. Madison's safe. That's what you wanted. The rest is on me. Brill. Tell the chief of staff his daughter's coming home. Tell him she's going to need therapy. Tell him she's going to have nightmares for years. But tell him she's alive because I got her out. And tell him that the men who did this to her won't hurt anyone else. He walked to the door. Kovac followed him. If you do this, you're on your own. No backup, no support. If it goes wrong, it won't go wrong. How do you know? Brill looked back at Madison on the couch, the IV in her arm, the vacant look in her eyes, the bruises, the evidence of what they'd done to her. Because I'm better at killing than they are, Brill said. He walked out into the pre-dawn darkness, got in the Honda and started the engine. Carlito was in Homestead, probably panicking, probably trying to figure out what happened, why the warehouse was empty, why his men weren't answering their phones. Brill was going to answer those questions for him. He pulled out of the driveway and headed south. The sky was getting lighter, streaks of orange and pink, the sun coming up over the ocean. It was going to be a beautiful morning, and Carlito Vega was never going to see another one. Brill merged onto the highway and pushed the Honda to 80. The storage facility looked different in the breaking dawn. Brill parked the Honda a quarter-mile away and approached on foot. The gate was open. Carlito's black Escalade sat in the lot near the office. The driver's door was open. Music thumped from the speakers, reggaeton. The same bass-heavy rhythm Brill had heard at Carlito's apartment. He moved between the buildings. Stayed low. The suppressor was still on the Glock. He kept it in his hand. Unit 178 was exactly as he'd left it. The metal panel bent outward, the gap he'd used to enter. But now there were voices coming from inside. Carlito's voice. Angry. Panicked. Speaking Spanish too fast for Brill to follow, another voice answered, calmer, also in Spanish. Brill moved to the gap and looked through. Carlito was inside the unit, pacing. His phone pressed to his ear. He was wearing white jeans and a silk shirt open at the collar, gold chain, expensive watch. His free hand gestured wildly as he talked. The second man stood near the back, older than Carlito, 40-something, barrel-chested. Tattoos up both arms. He held an AR-15 across his chest like he knew how to use it. Brill listened. His Spanish wasn't perfect, but he got enough. Carlito was talking to someone about the warehouse, about the girls being gone, about 4 men being dead. The person on the other end was yelling. Brill could hear the voice through the phone. Enzo. Carlito kept saying, "No say, and I don't know, and it wasn't my fault." The man with the AR-15 said something about checking the security footage, about finding out who hit them. Carlito ended the call, threw the phone against the wall. It shattered. "This is your fault," Carlito said in English now. "You said this place was secure." "It was secure," the other man said. "Someone knew the code, someone knew where to look." "Well, they knew because someone talked." "Nobody talked. Maybe it was Enzo. Maybe he—" "Enzo didn't do this. Someone hit him too, at the marina, beat him up and took his phone. This is organized. Professional. Who would come after us like this?" "I don't know. Cops? Feds? Cops don't kill 4 guys and walk away. This is someone else." Carlito started pacing again. His hands were shaking. He pulled a vial from his pocket, tapped out a bump of cocaine onto his hand, snorted it, wiped his nose. "We need to get out of Miami," he said, "right now, before whoever did this comes after us." "Where are we going to go?" "I don't know. Somewhere. Anywhere. Maybe Mexico." The man with the AR-15 shook his head. "Enzo's not going to let you run. You're his guy. You deliver for him. He loses you. He loses his connection to Rico and all those college girls. Enzo can find someone else. I'm done. This business is over." Brill had heard enough. He stepped through the gap in the metal. Both men spun toward him. The man with the AR-15 tried to bring it up. Brill shot him in the face. The suppressed round punched through his cheekbone and out the back of his skull. He dropped without making a sound. Carlito froze. His mouth opened. His eyes went wide. Brill walked toward him. The Glock steady, pointed at Carlito's chest. "Who are you?" Carlito's voice was high, terrified. "I'm the guy who took Madison right back." "I don't know who that is." "Yes, you do. Dark hair, 19. You picked her up outside the Fontainebleau 4 nights ago, delivered her to Enzo, got paid $25,000. Carlito's hands came up, palms out. "That was business, man. Nothing personal. She's fine. She's safe. She was in a storage unit covered in her own piss. That's not safe. Look, I just do what I'm told. Enzo wanted her. I got her. That's it. I didn't hurt her. You drugged her, zip-tied her, sold her to a man who was going to ship her to the Bahamas and rape her for the rest of her life. You're as guilty as anyone." "It's not like that. These girls, they party too hard. They get in trouble. We just—" Brill shot him in the leg. Carlito screamed and went down. His hands clutched his thigh. Blood poured between his fingers. "Don't lie to me," Brill said. "You're a predator. You and Rico. You target girls. Rich girls. Pretty girls. Girls whose parents will pay. Or girls you can sell to men like Enzo and Locke. Please, man. Please. I'll tell you whatever you want." "Where's Rico?" "I don't know. We don't talk anymore. He does his thing. I do mine." "Try again." Brill aimed at Carlito's other leg. Wait. Okay, he's at his girlfriend's place. Kendall, an apartment on 88th Street. Address. Carlito rattled off the address. Brill memorized it. "What about Locke? Grayson Locke?" "I never met him." "Enzo deals with him directly. All I know is he's rich. Lives in Nassau. Has a place on some private island." "Which island?" "I don't know, man. I swear. Enzo never told me." Brill studied Carlito's face. The sweat, The fear, the cocaine residue under his nose. He was telling the truth. He was just a middleman, a delivery boy who got paid to ruin lives. Madison Wright is 19 years old, Brill said. She went to Miami for spring break, to have fun with her friends. You turned that into a nightmare she'll carry for the rest of her life. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, okay? I didn't know. Yes, you did. You knew exactly what you were doing. Carlito started crying. Please don't kill me. I've got a daughter. She's 5. She needs me. You've got a daughter, and you sell other people's daughters. I'll stop. I'll never do it again. I swear on my daughter's life. Brill looked at him, at the tears and the blood and the desperation. He thought about the girl in the photo, 5 years old, growing up with a father who trafficked women. He thought about Madison on the couch, the IV in her arm, the vacant look in her eyes. He pulled the trigger. Carlito jerked once and went still. His eyes stared at the ceiling, empty, seeing nothing. Brill stood there for a moment. The storage unit was quiet except for the drip of blood on concrete. 2 more bodies. 2 more men who wouldn't hurt anyone else. He walked out through the gap in the metal. The sun was coming up. Full daylight now. The storage facility looked almost peaceful in the morning light. Brill holstered the Glock and walked back to the Honda, got in and started the engine. Rico was next, then Enzo, then Locke. The list was getting shorter. His phone rang. Kovac. Brill answered. The chief of staff is here, Kovac said. He wants to talk to you. Put him on. There was a pause. Then Richard Wright's voice. Mr. Wingfield. Sir, I want to thank you for bringing Madison home. I don't know how to... His voice broke. He cleared his throat. I don't know how to express what this means to me. You don't have to. The doctor says she's going to be okay. Physically, at least. It'll take time, but she'll recover. That's good. Kovac told me what you found. About Enzo. About Locke. About the trafficking operation. Yes, sir. The FBI is going to investigate. They're going to build a case, but Kovac also said you have other plans. Brill didn't respond. Wright was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I'm a father first. Everything else comes second. If there's something you need to do, something that won't happen through official channels, I'm not going to stand in your way. I understand. But I was never part of this conversation, and you were never working for me. As far as anyone knows, Madison was found by local police. Anonymous tip. You don't exist. I never existed. Good luck, Mr. Wingfield. The line went dead. Brill set the phone down and pulled out of the lot. Rico's apartment was 30 minutes away. Then Enzo. Then he'd figure out how to get to Locke in Nassau. The sun climbed higher. Traffic picked up. The city was waking up. People going to work, to school, to their normal lives. And somewhere in that city, 2 more men had no idea their time was running out. Brill merged onto the highway and drove toward Kendall. Brill stopped at a gas station in Kendall and bought coffee. He sat in the Honda and drank it while he reviewed what he knew. Rico's girlfriend lived on 88th Street. Carlito had given him the address before he died. Apartment 3C in a complex called Vista Gardens. The coffee was bad but hot. Brill finished it and threw the cup in a trash can. Then he drove to 88th Street. Vista Gardens looked exactly like 100 other apartment complexes in Miami. 3 stories of stucco-painted coral pink, palm trees in the courtyard, a pool with algae growing on the edges, cars parked in covered spaces underneath the building. Brill circled the block twice, looking for Rico's silver Audi. It wasn't there. He parked across the street and walked into the complex. The directory by the mailboxes listed Apartment 3C as Emya Rodriguez. He took the stairs to the 3rd floor. The hallway smelled like cooking oil and air freshener. He found 3C at the end, knocked twice. No answer. He knocked again. Harder. A woman's voice came from inside. Who is it? Looking for Rico. He's not here. When will he be back? I don't know. Leave him alone. Brill tried the handle. Locked. He could kick it in, but that would draw attention. People would hear. Someone would call the police. He needed another approach. My name's Mike, Brill said. Rico owes me money. A lot of money. I just want to talk to him. Silence from inside. If he doesn't talk to me, I'm going to talk to people he doesn't want me talking to. Understand? More silence. Then the sound of a chain lock sliding. The door opened 3 inches. A woman's face appeared. Early 20s, heavy makeup, dark roots showing under bleached hair. She looked scared. Rico doesn't owe anybody money, she said. Yes, he does. $5,000. He borrowed it 2 weeks ago. Said he'd pay me back by Friday. Friday was 3 days ago. That's not my problem. It is if he's living here. If he's using your place to hide. He's not hiding. He's just not here. Where is he? I don't know. He left yesterday. Said he had business. He didn't tell me where. Brill studied her face, the fear in her eyes, the way she kept glancing over her shoulder into the apartment. She was lying. Or maybe she wasn't. Maybe Rico really had left and not told her anything. Can I come in? Brill asked. No. I'm not going to hurt you. I just want to look around, see if Rico left anything that tells me where he went. I said no. The people I work for aren't patient. If I don't find Rico, they're going to send someone else, someone not as nice as me. The woman's eyes widened. Are you threatening me? I'm warning you, these people don't care about you. They only care about getting their money. If Rico skips town, they're going to come looking for anyone who helped him. She started to close the door. Brill put his boot in the gap. Please, he said. Just let me look around. 2 minutes. If I don't find anything, I'll leave and you'll never see me again. She hesitated. Fear warring with something else. Maybe loyalty to Rico. Maybe just exhaustion from dealing with his problems. Finally, she stepped back and opened the door. Brill walked in. The apartment was small. Living room, kitchen, 1 bedroom. The furniture was cheap. The walls were bare except for a few posters. It smelled like cigarettes and perfume. What's your name? Brill asked. Maria. You Rico's girlfriend? Sort of. We've been seeing each other for a few months. He live here? Sometimes. He's got his own place, but he crashes here when he's in the area. Brill looked around. A laptop sat on the coffee table, closed. He opened it. Password protected. What's the password? He asked. I don't know. That's Rico's. Brill picked up the laptop and carried it to the kitchen, set it on the counter. Then he went to the bedroom. The bed was unmade. Clothes on the floor. A duffel bag in the corner. Brill unzipped it. More clothes, a toiletry kit, nothing useful. He opened the closet. Shirts on hangers, shoes on the floor. On the shelf above was a shoebox. Brill pulled it down and opened it. Cash. Maybe $3,000 in mixed bills, rubber banded into stacks. Underneath the cash were photos. Printed on photo paper, not Instagram screenshots. Actual prints. Brill flipped through them. Girls at clubs. Girls at parties. Girls passed out on couches. Some of the photos had notes on the back. Names, phone numbers, ages. One photo made him stop, Madison Wright, at Live nightclub, smiling, holding a drink. She looked happy, alive. This was before Rico had delivered her to Carlito. Before everything had gone wrong. On the back, someone had written, M.W. Georgetown, 1950K, confirmed. Brill felt something cold settle in his chest. This wasn't opportunistic. This was calculated. Rico had been tracking Madison, taking photos, reporting back to someone. He pocketed the photo and kept looking through the box. More girls, more notes. Some of them said delivered. Others said pending or rejected. This was Rico's catalog. his inventory, girls he was selling. Brill looked at her, at the tears and the fear and the betrayal written on her face. She'd loved Rico, or thought she had, and now she was learning what kind of man he really was. "Yes," Brill said. Maria nodded slowly, like she'd expected that answer, like maybe part of her thought Rico deserved it. "There's one more thing," she said. "Rico has a boat, a little speedboat. He keeps it at a marina in Key Biscayne. Crandon Marina. He goes there sometimes when he needs to think." "What's the boat called?" "Rapido. It means fast." Brill walked to the door, stopped. "You should leave Miami. Get on a bus. Go stay with family somewhere. The people Rico works for aren't going to be happy when they figure out what happened. They might come looking for anyone connected to him." "What about the police? Shouldn't I talk to them?" "That's up to you. But if you do, they'll want you to testify. That means witness protection. That means leaving your whole life behind." Maria pulled her knees tighter to her chest. "I'll think about it." Brill left her there and walked back to the Honda. He put the laptop and the shoebox in the trunk. Then he got behind the wheel and sat there thinking. Rico had a boat at Crandon Marina. That was 30 minutes away. It was a long shot. Rico was probably already gone, already on his way to Nassau or somewhere else where he thought he'd be safe. But maybe not. Maybe he was still at the marina, fueling up, getting ready to run. Brill started the engine and headed toward Key Biscayne. The sun was high now. Afternoon. The day was hot and bright and ordinary. People were living their lives, going to lunch, running errands, unaware that somewhere in Miami men were dying for what they'd done. Brill merged onto the Rickenbacker Causeway. The water sparkled on both sides. Sailboats cut across the bay. Everything looked peaceful. But peace was temporary. Violence was always waiting just beneath the surface. Brill carried the box back to the living room. Maria was sitting on the couch. She looked at the box and her face went pale. "You know what this is?" Brill asked. "No." "Yes, you do." "I don't. Rico never told me anything." "You live with him. You sleep with him. You see him taking these photos. You know exactly what he's doing." Maria's eyes filled with tears. "He said it was modeling. That he was helping girls get modeling gigs. You believed that?" "I wanted to believe it." Brill set the box on the coffee table. He sat down across from Maria. She pulled her knees to her chest, made herself small. "Rico sells girls," Brill said. "He finds them at clubs, takes their photos, delivers them to men who pay money. Some of those girls end up dead. Some end up worse than dead." "I didn't know," Maria whispered. "Now you do. So I'm going to ask you again. Where is he?" "I really don't know. He left yesterday morning. Said he had to lay low for a while. Said something went wrong with a job." "Did he say where he was going?" "No, but he took his passport. I saw it in his bag." Passport. That meant Rico was planning to leave the country. Maybe he'd already heard about the warehouse. About Carlito. Maybe Enzo had warned him. Does he have family somewhere? Someone he'd run to? His mother lives in Hialeah, but he wouldn't go there. She hates what he does. What about friends? Other guys he works with? Just Carlito. And Carlito's not answering his phone. Rico tried calling him all morning. Carlito would never answer his phone again, but Maria didn't need to know that. Brill pulled out his phone and opened the photo of Madison in the storage unit. He showed it to Maria. "You see this girl?" Maria looked at the screen. Her hand went to her mouth. "Oh my God. That's Madison Wright, 19 years old. Rico delivered her to a warehouse. She was drugged, zip-tied, waiting to be shipped out of the country. 3 other girls were with her. This is what Rico does. This is his business." "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." "If you want to help, tell me everything. Where he might go, who he might call. Anything." Maria was crying now, full sobs. her whole body shaking. There's a guy. I don't know his name. Rico calls him El Jefe, the boss. He talks to him sometimes. Late at night, I hear them on the phone. What do they talk about? Girls, money, deliveries. I don't understand all of it. My English isn't perfect and they speak fast. This boss, where is he? I don't know. Rico never told me. But I heard him say Nassau once, when he was on the phone. He said he needed to get to Nassau. Nassau. Lock. Brill stood. He took the laptop and the shoebox. Maria didn't try to stop him. What are you going to do? She asked. Find Rico. Are you going to kill him? Crandon Marina sat at the southern tip of Key Biscayne, where the Atlantic met the bay. Brill drove through the entrance and parked near the fuel dock. The marina was busy. Weekend boaters loading coolers and fishing gear. Families with kids in life jackets. The smell of sunscreen and diesel fuel. He walked the docks looking for a boat called Rapido. Started at A dock and worked his way through. Checked every slip. Every name painted on every transom. He found it at F dock. Slip 43, a 23-foot center console. White hull with blue trim, twin outboards. Fast like its name suggested. The boat was empty, no one on board, no gear being loaded. Brill looked around. The dock was quiet here, away from the main activity. He stepped onto the boat and opened the console. The key was in the ignition, registration paperwork in a plastic sleeve. Owner listed as Ricardo Munoz. He checked the storage compartments, life jackets, fishing rods. A cooler with melted ice. Nothing that told him where Rico had gone. Brill stepped back onto the dock and called Simon. 2 rings. Yeah. I need you to track a phone. Ricardo Munoz. I need to know where he is right now. Give me the number. Brill read off the number from the rental agreement he'd found at Carlito's apartment. Simon had given it to him earlier. Hold on. The sound of typing. Then Simon said, Phone's off. Last ping was yesterday at 11 a.m. Little Havana, near Calle Ocho. Nothing since then? Nothing. He either pulled the battery or destroyed it. Can you track his credit cards? Bank accounts? Already did. No activity in the last 24 hours. He's running dark. Brill looked out at the water. The bay stretched to the horizon. Cuba was 90 miles south. The Bahamas were 50 miles east. Rico could be anywhere. What about his passport? Brill asked. Can you check if he's left the country? That takes longer. I'd have to access customs databases. Maybe an hour. Do it. What are you thinking? He's got a boat. His girlfriend said he took his passport. I think he's running to Nassau. To lock. Makes sense. If his operation just collapsed, he'd want to warn his buyer. Maybe get paid for the work he already did. How long would it take to get to Nassau in a boat like this? From here? In good weather? Maybe 10 hours. Could be less if he pushes it. Brill checked his watch. 2 in the afternoon. If Rico had left yesterday, he was already there, already sitting with Locke, already explaining what happened. Find me Locke's address in Nassau, Brill said. Exact location, and see if you can get me a flight out there tonight. Commercial or private? Whatever's faster. Private's faster but expensive. You okay with that? Yeah. All right. Give me 30 minutes. Simon ended the call. Brill walked back to the Honda and sat in the driver's seat with the windows down. The breeze came off the water, salt and seaweed and gasoline. He thought about the photo of Madison, the note on the back. $50,000? Confirmed. Someone had ordered her like merchandise. Someone had looked at her Instagram and decided they wanted her. That someone was Grayson Locke. And Rico had delivered her. Now Rico was probably in Nassau, probably thinking he was safe, that he'd escaped before everything fell apart. He was wrong. Brill's phone rang. Simon. That was fast, Brill said. I'm good at what I do. Locke's got a house on Paradise Island. Ocean Club Estates, big place, 12,000 square feet, right on the water. Address? Simon rattled it off. Brill wrote it down. I've got you on a charter flight, Simon continued. Leaves from Opelika Executive Airport at 7 p.m. Gets you into Nassau at 8:30. Cost is $8,000. Book it. Already did. Confirmation's in your email. What about weapons? That's your problem. The Bahamas has strict gun laws. You get caught with a firearm, you're looking at serious time. I'll figure it out. One more thing. Locke's got security, private contractors, at least 4 guys on the property at all times, maybe more. What kind of contractors? Former military, South African, very professional, very expensive. 4 trained operators, plus whatever security Locke had at the house itself. Cameras, alarms, gates. It would be a hard target, but not impossible. Send me everything you have on Locke, Brill said. Property layout, security details, known associates, everything. On it. Should have it to you in an hour. Thanks, Simon. Be careful down there. You're going into another country. No backup, no extraction. If it goes wrong, it won't go wrong. Brill ended the call. He checked the time. 4 hours until his flight. That gave him time to make one more stop. Enzo. He pulled up the address for Enzo's condo in Brickell, 20 minutes away. Enzo had been beaten, had his phone taken, but he was still alive, still running his operation, still thinking he could talk his way out of trouble or buy his way out. Brill started the Honda and drove toward the city. The traffic was heavy on the causeway. Rush hour starting early, people leaving work, heading home, living their normal lives. Brill thought about Madison, about the other 3 girls, about all the girls in Rico's shoebox. Names and numbers and ages, delivered, pending, rejected. How many girls had Rico sold? How many had Carlito delivered? How many had Enzo shipped to men like Locke? The numbers didn't matter. What mattered was stopping it, making sure it never happened again. And the only way to do that was to eliminate everyone involved. Brill merged onto I-95 and headed north. Brickell's glass towers rose ahead. Condos and office buildings that cost millions. The kind of neighborhood where money bought privacy and security. But security only worked if you knew the threat was coming. Enzo didn't know the threat was coming. Not yet. Brill took the exit and wound through the streets toward Enzo's building. A 40-story tower called Jade Residences. Luxury condos with ocean views and amenities that looked like a resort. He parked in a public garage 2 blocks away and walked to the building. The lobby was marble and glass. A doorman stood at the entrance in a crisp uniform. Security desk beyond him with 2 guards. Brill couldn't walk in, not without being announced, not without leaving a trail. He circled the building. Found the service entrance in back, a loading dock, delivery trucks coming and going. Staff in uniforms carrying packages and dry cleaning. Brill waited until a truck pulled up to the dock, watched the driver get out and head inside with a dolly. Then he walked up to the dock like he belonged there and slipped through the open door. Inside was a service corridor, concrete floors, fluorescent lights, staff moving efficiently. Nobody paid attention to him. He found the service elevator and took it to the 26th floor. Enzo's unit was 2604 according to Simon's information. The elevator opened into a hallway. Residential, carpeted, quiet. Art on the walls, fresh flowers on a table. Brill walked to 2604 and listened at the door. Television inside, voices. A man and a woman arguing in Spanish. He knocked. The voices stopped. Footsteps. The door opened 2 inches. Chain lock in place. A woman looked out. Not the same woman from the yacht. Someone else. Younger. Nervous. "Kay?" she said. "I need to talk to Enzo." "He's not here. His car's downstairs. He's here." The woman tried to close the door. Brill's shoulder hit it. The chain snapped and the door flew open. The woman stumbled back, started to scream. Brill was inside, gun out. The woman ran toward the bedroom. Brill followed. Enzo was in bed. His face was bruised from their encounter on the yacht, both eyes blackened, nose swollen. He saw Brill and tried to reach for the nightstand. Brill shot the nightstand. The wood exploded. Whatever was inside stayed inside. "Don't," Brill said. Enzo froze. His hands came up. "You again." "Me again." "What do you want? I told you where the girls were." "You did, and I got them out. All 4 of them. Safe now. Going home." "Then we're done. You got what you wanted." "Not quite. Your warehouse is empty. 4 of your men are dead. Carlito's dead. Your operation is over." Enzo's face went pale. "You killed Carlito?" "This morning, at the storage facility." "Jesus Christ. Do you know who you're messing with? Do you know who I work for?" "Grayson Locke, rich American, lives in Nassau, likes young girls." "He's connected, powerful. You can't just—" "I can, and I will. But first I need to know where Rico is." "I don't know. He's not answering his phone." "Try again." Brill pointed the Glock at Enzo's knee. "Wait, wait." Enzo held up his hands. "Rico called me yesterday. Said he was getting out. Said the whole thing was too hot. I told him to go to Nassau, to explain to Locke what happened, to try to salvage the relationship." "So he's there, with Locke." "Probably. I don't know for sure." "You're going to call Locke. Right now. You're going to tell him I'm coming." "What? Why would I?" "Because if you do, I'll let you live. If you don't, I'll kill you right here." Enzo stared at him, calculating, trying to figure out if Brill was bluffing. Brill wasn't bluffing. "Okay," Enzo said. "Okay, I'll call him. Put it on speaker." Enzo picked up his phone from the nightstand. The wood was splintered where Brill's bullet had hit. He dialed. "Put it on speaker." The phone rang 4 times. Then a voice answered. American. Educated. Smooth. "Enzo, I was wondering when you'd call." "Mr. Locke, we have a problem." "I'm aware. Rico told me everything. The warehouse, the girls, your men. It's quite a mess. There's someone coming after us. A professional. He's already killed 4 people. Maybe more. And you think he's coming for me?" "I know he is. He made me call you. He's right here." Silence on the line. Then Locke said, "Put him on." Brill took the phone. "Locke, who are you?" "Nobody you need to know." "You killed my merchandise. Cost me a significant amount of money." "Your merchandise was a 19-year-old girl. Her name was Madison Wright. I'm aware of her name. She was perfect. Exactly what I ordered. And you took her. I'm coming to Nassau. Tonight. When I get there, I'm going to kill Rico. Then I'm going to kill you." Locke laughed. A genuine laugh, amused. "You think you're the first person to threaten me? I have security. Professional security. You'll never get through my gate. I got through Enzo's warehouse. I got through Carlito's operation. I'll get through your security. We'll see. Come to Nassau. Try your luck. I'll be waiting." The line went dead. Brill set the phone down, looked at Enzo. "You kept your part of the deal," Brill said. "So I'll keep mine. He walked out of the bedroom. The woman was in the living room, crying, phone in her hand, probably calling the police. Brill took the stairs down, all 26 flights, came out in the parking garage, walked back to the Honda without hurrying. His phone buzzed. A text from Simon. Locke just activated his security system. All personnel on alert. You kicked the hornet's nest. Brill texted back. Good. Easier to find them that way. He started the Honda and headed toward Opalaka. His flight left in 3 hours. Nassau was 50 miles across the water. The charter flight was a 6-seat Cessna Citation that smelled like leather and money. Brill was the only passenger. The pilot was a woman in her 40s who didn't ask questions. She filed the flight plan and taxied to the runway, while Brill sat in back and reviewed the files Simon had sent. Grayson Locke, 52 years old, born in Connecticut, Yale education, made his first $100 million in tech startups during the dot-com boom, sold out before the crash, moved to the Bahamas 15 years ago for the tax advantages and the privacy. No criminal record, no arrests, clean on paper. But the money trail told a different story. Shell companies in the Caymans, offshore accounts, payments to operations in Miami and the Dominican Republic and Colombia, all carefully structured, all designed to look legitimate. Simon had found 6 other girls who'd been shipped to Locke over the past 3 years. College students, runaways, girls who disappeared and were never found. The traffickers kept records. Locke paid premium prices, $50,000 per girl, sometimes more if they were exactly what he wanted. Brill studied the property layout. Ocean Club Estates was gated, private security at the entrance. Locke's house sat on 2 acres of beachfront, high walls, cameras, motion sensors, 4 security contractors on rotating shifts. Getting in would require either force or deception. Brill preferred force. It was cleaner, more direct. Less chance of complications. The plane lifted off and banked east over the ocean. The sun was setting, orange and red bleeding across the water. In 30 minutes, it would be dark. Brill closed his eyes and ran through scenarios. The approach, the breach, the extraction. He wouldn't have time for reconnaissance. This was a hit and go. Get to Locke. Get to Rico. Eliminate both. Get out before the police arrived. The Bahamas didn't extradite easily, but they didn't like Americans committing murders on their territory either. He'd need to be gone before anyone figured out what happened. The plane descended through clouds. Nassau appeared below. Lights spreading across the island, hotels and casinos and marinas, tourism and banking and all the legal business that funded everything else. They landed at a private airstrip on the western end of the island. The pilot taxied to a hangar and shut down the engines. "You need me to wait?" she asked. "No. I'll find my own way back." She looked at him for a moment. Something in his face made her nod and look away. "Good luck with whatever you're doing." Brill grabbed his bag and walked off the plane. A taxi was waiting outside the hangar. He'd arranged it through Simon. The driver was a local, old, missing teeth. He smiled when Brill got in. "Where to, Mon?" "Paradise Island, but not the main entrance. I need the beach access on the east side." The driver's smile faded. "That's private property, can't drive there." Brill handed him $500 in cash. "Drive as close as you can. I'll walk the rest." The driver looked at the money, looked at Brill, put the car in gear. They drove through Nassau, past the cruise ship terminal, past the casinos and hotels, over the bridge to Paradise Island. The driver turned onto a side road that wound through residential areas, houses getting bigger, more expensive, gates and walls and security. He stopped at a dead end near the beach. "This is it. Ocean Club is that way, maybe half a mile." Brill got out. The driver leaned out the window. "You want me to wait?" "No." "You in trouble, Mun?" "Not yet." The driver shook his head and drove away. The taillights disappeared around a corner. Brill was alone. He walked down to the beach. The sand was white and soft. The water lapped against the shore. No moon, just stars and the distant lights of hotels. He moved along the waterline, stayed where the sand was wet and firm, left no clear footprints. The beach was empty. Too late for tourists. Too early for lovers. After 10 minutes, he saw Locke's house. It sat behind a wall that ran from the road to the water. 2 stories, modern architecture. Glass and steel and concrete. Lights on inside, shadows moving. Brill stopped and watched, counted the security. 2 men patrolling the perimeter, one on the beach side, one on the road side, both carrying rifles, both wearing tactical gear and radio headsets. Professional, like Simon said. Brill moved closer, stayed low, used the darkness and the sound of the waves to mask his approach. The guard on the beach was 50 feet away, walking a pattern. 10 steps east, turn. 10 steps west, turn, repeat. Brill waited until the guard's back was turned. Then he moved, fast, silent, closed the distance in 5 seconds. His arm went around the guard's throat, locked tight. Cut off the blood to the brain. The guard struggled, tried to reach for his radio, tried to bring the rifle up. Brill held on. 10 seconds. 15. The guard went limp.
Brill lowered into the sand. Took his radio and earpiece. The rifle was a suppressed HK-416. Good weapon. Brill checked the magazine. Full. He slung it over his shoulder. The radio crackled. A voice with a South African accent. Station 2, check in. Station 2 was the guard on the beach, unconscious in the sand. Station 2, respond. Brill pressed the transmit button. Made his voice rough. Tired. Station 2. All clear. Pause. Then, copy that. Next, check in at 2100. Brill looked at his watch. 9 p.m. He had 30 minutes before they expected another check-in. He climbed over the wall and dropped into the property. Landscaped grounds. Palm trees. A pool, glowing blue in the darkness. The house ahead, with lights blazing. He moved toward it, staying in shadows, watching windows. A door opened. Light spilled out. A man stepped onto the patio. The second guard. He lit a cigarette and stood there smoking. Brill raised the HK-416, who put the sight on the guard's head. Waited for him to turn. The guard took a drag. Exhaled. Looked out at the ocean. Brill fired. The suppressed round punched through the guard's temple. He dropped without a sound. Brill was moving before the body hit the ground, crossed the patio. Through the door the guard had come from. He was in the house. Kitchen, high-end appliances. Marble counters. No one there. Voices from another room. Male voices, arguing. Brill followed the sound. Down a hallway, past a dining room. Into a study. Rico was there, standing by a desk. He looked thinner than his photos. Scared, his hands were shaking. Grayson Locke sat behind the desk. Expensive suit. Perfect hair. A glass of whiskey in front of him. He looked calm, in control. A third man stood by the door. Another guard. He saw Brill and went for his sidearm. Brill shot him twice. Center mass. The guard fell. Rico screamed and dove behind a chair. Locke didn't move, just looked at Brill with curiosity. You actually made it? Locke said. I'm impressed. Brill kept the rifle trained on him. Where are the other guards? Dead, I assume. You work fast? Stand up. I'm comfortable where I am.
Brill shot the desk. Wood exploded. Locke flinched but didn't stand. You're not going to shoot me. Locke said. Not yet. You want something. Information. Confession. Whatever lets you sleep at night. I don't need your confession. I know what you are. Do you? I'm a businessman. I pay for services. What people do with those services isn't my concern. You bought Madison Wright, 19 years old. Ordered her specifically. Paid $50,000. I paid for companionship. What I do in my private time is nobody's business. Companionship. That's what you call it. What would you call it? Slavery, rape, evil. Locke smiled. Such strong words. Madison was going to have a good life here. Beautiful house, everything she needed. Better than whatever middle-class existence she was headed for. She didn't want it. Most people don't know what they want. They need someone to show them. Brill felt his finger tighten on the trigger. It would be easy. One round. End this conversation. End Locke. But Rico was still behind the chair, still breathing, still part of this. Rico, Brill said, stand up. Rico didn't move. Stand up or I'll shoot through the chair. Rico stood slowly. His face was pale. Sweat stained his silk shirt. You delivered her, Brill said. You and Carlito. I didn't know what was going to happen. I swear. I thought... You thought what? That taking photos of college girls and selling them was okay? That drugging them and shipping them to predators was a job? I needed the money. I was in debt. Carlito said it was easy work. Carlito's dead. Rico's legs buckled. He caught himself on the chair. What? I killed him this morning. At the storage facility. Right after I killed the 4 men at the warehouse. Right after I killed Enzo's guards. Oh God! Oh Jesus! Rico was crying now. Please! I didn't want to hurt anyone. I was just... You took pictures of Madison, sent them to Locke. Collected $25,000 when you delivered her. You knew exactly what you were doing. Locke finished his whiskey. Set the glass down. If you're going to kill us, get on with it. This moralizing is tedious. Brill looked at him. At the expensive suit and the perfect hair and the complete lack of remorse. Men like Locke never felt remorse. They lived in a world where money bought anything, where people were commodities, where consequences were for others. Madison's home, Brill said. Safe, getting help. You'll never touch her again. There are other girls, Locke said. There are always other girls. Not for you. Brill pulled the trigger. The round took Locke in the chest. He jerked back in his chair. Blood spread across the white shirt. His eyes went wide, then empty. Rico screamed, turned to run. Brill shot him in the back. Rico crashed into a bookshelf and slid down it. Books tumbled around him. The house was quiet. Just the sound of the ocean through the open door. The wind in the palm trees. Brill walked to Locke's desk. Opened drawers. Found a laptop. Took it. Found a phone. Took that too. Found a leather notebook. Flipped through it. Names, addresses, amounts, more girls, more transactions. He took the notebook and walked back through the house. Out onto the patio. Over the wall. Down to the beach. The guard he'd choked was starting to wake up. Brill zip-tied his hands and feet. Left him there. He walked back along the beach. Away from the house. Away from the bodies. The rifle went into the water. Sank into the darkness. His phone buzzed. A text from Simon. Police dispatch just went hot. Multiple 911 calls. Ocean Club Estates. Shots fired. Brill texted back. I need extraction. Private boat. Nassau to Miami. Tonight. On it. Give me 20 minutes. Brill kept walking. The beach curved around the island. Hotels in the distance. Music and laughter and people who had no idea what had just happened half a mile away. His phone buzzed again. Simon. Boat's ready. Marina on the west side. Captain's waiting. Name's Jules. He'll get you home. Thanks. Be careful. They're going to lock down the island, airports, ferries, everything. I'll be gone before they figure out what to look for. Brill put the phone away and headed toward the marina. Behind him, sirens started to wail. The marina was small, 20 slips, fishing boats and day cruisers, a single light over the dockmaster's shack. Jules was waiting at slip 12, a Bahamian in his 60s, dreadlocks gone gray, a face carved by sun and salt water. He stood on the deck of a 30-foot contender, twin Yamahas on the back, built for speed. "You Wingfield?" Jules asked. "Yeah. Your friend said you need to get to Miami. Said to hurry." "That's right. Cost is $10,000, half now, half when we dock." Brill pulled out cash, counted $5,000, handed it over. Jules tucked it into his pocket without counting. "Get on board. We leave now." Brill climbed onto the boat. Jules started the engines. The Yamahas rumbled to life, deep and powerful. He backed out of the slip and pointed the bow toward open water. They cleared the no-wake zone, and Jules pushed the throttles forward. The contender lifted onto plane, 30 knots, then 40. The boat cutting through the darkness like a blade. Brill sat in the fighting chair and looked back at Nassau. The lights were receding, more sirens now, red and blue strobing through the streets, police converging on Ocean Club estates. They'd find Locke. They'd find Rico. They'd find the guards, but the trail would end there. No witnesses. No cameras that caught Brill's face. No evidence except bodies and shell casings. Jules didn't speak, just drove. His hands steady on the wheel, his eyes on the GPS screen. He'd done this before. Run people across the water. No questions, just money and miles. The ocean was black, no moon, just stars scattered across the sky like broken glass. The wind was warm. The boat's wake stretched behind them, white foam glowing in the darkness. Brill pulled out Locke's laptop and phone. The laptop was password protected, but Simon could crack that. The phone opened with a thumbprint. Locke's thumbprint, which Brill had lifted before leaving the house. He scrolled through messages, emails, photos. Locke kept everything, names, transactions. Girls who'd been delivered. Girls who were pending. Girls who'd been rejected and sent back. One email thread caught his attention. Between Locke and someone with the email address jpembertonstonridgecapital.com, the subject line was mutual interests. Brill opened it. The first email was from 6 months ago. Pemberton writing to Locke, friendly, casual, mentioning they'd met at a fundraiser in Palm Beach, suggesting they should talk about business opportunities of a sensitive nature. Locke had responded. Interested? Careful? Setting up an encrypted communication channel. The rest of the thread was vague. References to acquisitions and special requests and premium selections. But one email was more specific. Pemberton had sent photos. 3 girls, all college-aged. All at what looked like political events. Campaign rallies. Fundraisers. Locke had responded. The brunette is acceptable. The others don't meet my standards. Can you provide more background on the brunette? Academic institution, family connections? I prefer subjects with meaningful profiles. Pemberton's response. Georgetown Jr. Father works in administration, very high profile, very risky. Price would be substantial. Name the price. 100,000, plus expenses. Agreed. Proceed with acquisition. Brill stared at the screen. Georgetown Jr. Father in administration. This was Madison. Locke hadn't found her randomly on Instagram. Someone had sent him her photo. Someone had facilitated the whole thing. J. Pemberton, Stoneridge Capital. Brill switched to the browser and searched. Stoneridge Capital was a private equity firm in D.C. James Pemberton was a founding partner, 54 years old, Harvard MBA, connected to politicians and power brokers across Washington. His bio photo showed a man in an expensive suit, silver hair, confident smile, the kind of person who moved in circles where money and influence intersected. Brill took screenshots of everything, sent them to his own phone. Then he wiped Locke's phone and dropped it over the side of the boat, watched it sink into the black water. The laptop he'd keep. Give it to Simon. Let him extract everything useful before destroying it. Jules checked the GPS. Half an hour. We're making good time. Brill nodded. He was thinking about Pemberton, about someone in D.C. targeting girls, sending their photos to predators like Locke, taking a commission on the sale. How many girls had Pemberton sold? How many were still out there? How many had disappeared into the same pipeline that had almost swallowed Madison? His phone buzzed. Kovac. Brill answered. Where are you? Kovac's voice was controlled, but Brill could hear the tension underneath. On my way back. From where? Does it matter? There's been an incident in Nassau. Grayson Locke is dead. So is Ricardo Munoz. So are 3 security contractors. The Bahamian police are calling it an execution. I wouldn't know anything about that. The hell you wouldn't. You said you were finishing this. I assume this is you finishing it. When can I talk to Madison? Brill asked. Kovac was quiet for a moment. Why? I need to ask her something. She's at Walter Reed, under protection, recovering. You can't just walk in there. Then bring her somewhere I can talk to her. Or put me on the phone with her. I don't care which, but I need to ask her about something. What? About how Locke found her, about who targeted her. Another pause. Then Kovac said, What are you talking about? I'm talking about someone in Washington who sent Madison's photo to Locke. Someone who facilitated the whole thing. Someone who's probably done it before and will do it again. You have proof of this? I have Locke's phone records, emails, communications with someone named James Pemberton. Pemberton? Jesus Christ. You know him? Everyone in D.C. knows him. He's a major donor. Fundraises for both parties. Has access to the highest levels of government. And apparently he sells girls on the side. Kovac exhaled. This just got a lot more complicated. It was always complicated. I'm just telling you how deep it goes. Where are you landing? Haul over. Maybe 30 minutes. I'll send Driscoll to pick you up. We need to talk. And you need to see the chief of staff. Why? Because Madison's been asking questions. She remembers more than we thought. And some of what she remembers doesn't add up. The line went dead. Brill put the phone away. Looked ahead at the lights of Miami growing brighter, the city coming into view, towers and bridges and the sprawl of civilization. Jules throttled back as they approached the inlet. Whatever you're mixed up in, it sounds heavy. It is. You going to be okay? I'm always okay. Jules laughed. That's what everyone says right before they're not okay. They navigated the channel, entered Haulover Marina. Jules eased into a slip away from the main docks, cut the engines. Brill pulled out the rest of the cash, handed it over. Jules counted it and nodded. Good luck, Jules said. Sounds like you're going to need it. Brill stepped onto the dock, laptop under his arm, the weight of what he'd learned settling on his shoulders. Locke was dead. Rico was dead. But the operation was bigger than he'd thought. Someone in Washington was facilitating it. Someone with power and connections and the ability to move invisible. And Madison knew something that didn't add up. Brill walked through the marina toward the parking lot. Driscoll's SUV was waiting. Driscoll leaned against it, arms crossed. Kovac said you went to Nassau, Driscoll said. Did he? You kill Locke? Get in the car. We need to get back to the beach house. Driscoll pushed off the SUV. The beach house is cleared out. Everyone's gone. Then where's Madison? Still at Walter Reed. But the chief of staff is flying back down. He wants to talk to you before the FBI gets involved. The FBI already involved? Not yet. But they will be. This whole thing is about to blow up. Dead billionaire in Nassau. Trafficking operation in Miami. They're going to want answers. Brill got in the passenger seat. Driscoll climbed behind the wheel and started the engine. "What did Madison remember?" Brill asked. Driscoll pulled out of the lot. "She said something about a man at a party. Before she came to Miami, some fundraiser in D.C. He was asking her questions. Where she was going for spring break, who she was going with. She thought he was just being friendly." "What did he look like?" She couldn't remember clearly. Older, silver hair, expensive suit. But she said he made her uncomfortable. Like he was studying her. Pemberton. It had to be. "When's the chief of staff landing?" Brill asked. 2 hours. He wants to meet at a hotel in Coral Gables. Private, secure. Brill looked out at the city passing by. Dawn was coming, the sky lightening in the east. Another day starting. People waking up to news about murders in Nassau, about a trafficking ring broken in Miami. But they wouldn't know the whole truth. They wouldn't know about Pemberton, about someone in Washington selecting targets, about how deep the corruption ran. "This isn't over," Brill said. Driscoll glanced at him. "What do you mean?" "I mean there's more to this than Locke and Enzo and Rico. There's someone else, someone who's still out there. You going after them?" Brill didn't answer. Just watched the city roll past. The sun broke over the horizon, orange light flooding the streets. Brill waited. Madison said the man at the party wasn't alone. There was a woman with him, younger, maybe 30, very polished. Madison said they seemed like business partners. Not romantic, professional. She remember anything else about the woman? Blonde, tall, designer clothes. Madison said she seemed familiar, but she couldn't place her. Brill thought about the emails on Locke's laptop. Most of them were from Pemberton, but there were others. Different accounts, different names. This wasn't a one-man operation. "I need to see Madison," Brill said. "That's not possible," Kovac said. "She's in protective custody, restricted access, only family and approved medical staff." "Then you need to approve me." "Why? What are you going to ask her that we haven't already asked?" "I need to show her photos, see if she can identify the woman, see if she remembers anything else about that party." Wright finished his second scotch, set the glass down. "If I arrange this, if I get you access to my daughter, you have to promise me something." "What?" "That you won't go after Pemberton without talking to me first. That you'll give me a chance to handle this the right way." Brill looked at him, at the desperation in his face, the need to believe that the system could work, that justice could be served without more blood. "How long?" Brill asked. "What? How long do I give you? A week? A month?" Wright hesitated. 2 weeks. Give me 2 weeks to build a case, to coordinate with the FBI, to do this properly. And if nothing happens in 2 weeks, then we'll revisit the conversation. Brill stood. "Set up the meeting with Madison." "I'll wait." Wright nodded, pulled out his phone and stepped into the bedroom. Kovac moved closer to Brill, lowered his voice. "You're playing a dangerous game. Pemberton isn't some small-time trafficker. He's got friends in every agency, every department. You go after him, and you'll have more enemies than you can count." "I've had enemies before." "Not like this. These people play by different rules. They don't use guns. They use lawyers and leverage and political pressure. They'll destroy you without ever getting their hands dirty." "Then it's a good thing I don't exist." Driscoll spoke from the door. "What if Madison can't identify anyone? What if her memories are too fragmented? Then I'll find another way." "Another way to what?" "To make sure this never happens again." Wright came back from the bedroom. "It's arranged. Madison will see you tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. at Walter Reed. Security will be expecting you. You'll have 30 minutes. That's enough." "There are conditions. A psychiatrist will be present. If Madison becomes distressed, the meeting ends immediately. Understand?" "Understood." "And Brill?" Wright's voice was firm now, controlled. The voice of a man who was used to giving orders. You will not upset my daughter. You will not traumatize her further. You will ask your questions and you will leave. Are we clear? Crystal. Brill walked to the door. Driscoll opened it. One more thing, Wright said. When this is over, when Pemberton and everyone involved is dealt with, I don't want to see you again. I don't want to know where you are or what you're doing. As far as I'm concerned, you were never part of this. That's how I prefer it. Brill walked out. Driscoll followed him to the elevator. You really going to wait 2 weeks? Driscoll asked. No. Didn't think so. They rode the elevator down in silence. In the parking garage, Driscoll handed Brill a key card. What's this? Hotel room, 2 floors down from the chief of staff. Kovac figured you'd need a place to stay. You're in 114. We'll pick you up at 8 tomorrow morning for the drive to D.C. Brill took the key. Thanks. Don't thank me. I think you're making a mistake. But it's your mistake to make. Driscoll got in the SUV and drove away. Brill stood in the garage, the sound of engines echoing off concrete, the smell of exhaust and oil. He thought about Madison, about what she'd remembered, about Pemberton at that party, collecting information, selecting his target. How many other parties had he attended? How many other girls had he studied? How many were still out there being sold? Brill walked to the elevator, rode it to the first floor, found room 114. The room was small, clean, generic hotel furniture and art. He sat on the bed and pulled out Locke's laptop. Powered it on. The password screen appeared. He called Simon. Yeah. I'm sending you a laptop. I need everything on it. Emails, files, photos, contacts, everything. When? Tonight. I'll have it couriered to you within the hour. What am I looking for? Connections, patterns, anyone else who was working with Pemberton and Locke. This operation is bigger than 2 men. You think there's a network? I know there is. All right, send it over. I'll have preliminary results by morning. Brill ended the call. He arranged a courier pickup through the hotel concierge. Encrypted shipping. No questions asked. Then he lay back on the bed and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow he'd see Madison. Tomorrow he'd find out if she could identify the woman. Tomorrow he'd have more pieces of the puzzle. And then he'd decide what to do about James Pemberton. Whether Wright liked it or not. The flight to D.C. left at 6 a.m. Brill sat in coach, window seat, baseball cap pulled low. He looked like every other tired business traveler heading north. Forgettable. His phone buzzed as they reached cruising altitude. Simon. I've been through the laptop. You need to see this. Send it. Already did. Check your encrypted email. Brill opened the app, downloaded the files, started reading. Simon had organized everything. Emails sorted by sender, contacts categorized, financial transactions mapped out. James Pemberton had been working with Locke for 3 years. But he wasn't the only supplier. There were others. 5 different email addresses. 5 different operations feeding girls to Locke. One account belonged to someone named Victoria Chen. The emails were professional, clinical. She sent photos, dossiers, background information on potential targets. Girls from good families, girls with futures, girls whose disappearance would matter but whose parents wouldn't risk public scandal. Chen's emails included details the others didn't. Medical records, psychiatric evaluations, things that required access to confidential systems. Another account belonged to Marcus Thorne. His emails were different. Transactional. He dealt in volume. 3 girls, 5 girls. Once he'd offered 10 at a reduced rate. These weren't selected targets. These were bulk shipments. Runaways. Addicts. Girls from broken homes who wouldn't be missed. The financial records showed payments going back 5 years, not just to Locke, to others, rich men in Dubai, Singapore, London, Moscow. The operation was international. Pemberton alone had facilitated the sale of 23 girls over 3 years. almost $2 million in commissions. Brill's jaw tightened as he read. This wasn't about Madison anymore. This was about a machine, a system designed to turn women into commodities, and it was still running. The plane began its descent. Brill closed the files and looked out the window. D.C. spread below, the monuments, the Capitol Dome, the city where power lived and predators thrived behind respectable facades. Driscoll met him at Reagan. They drove to Walter Reed in silence. The hospital complex sprawled across acres. Security at every entrance, guards checking IDs. Driscoll parked near the psychiatric wing. Remember what the chief of staff said. You've got 30 minutes, don't upset her. I remember. They walked through corridors that smelled like disinfectant and anxiety. Kovach was waiting outside room 412. She's awake, Kovach said. The psychiatrist is with her, Dr. Brennan. She'll stay in the room during your conversation. Fine. And Brill? Madison's fragile. The drugs are out of her system, but the trauma is still fresh. Be gentle. Brill didn't respond. He opened the door and went inside. Madison sat in a chair by the window. She wore sweatpants and a Georgetown hoodie. Her hair was pulled back. No makeup. She looked younger than 19. Looked like a child. A woman in her 40s sat nearby. Dr. Brennan. Clipboard in her lap. Watchful eyes. Madison turned when Brill entered. She studied his face. Her expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Recognition, maybe, or memory. You're the one who found me, she said. Her voice was quiet, steady. Yes. My father told me it was a task force, FBI and police, but that's not true, is it? No. It was just you. Yes. She nodded slowly. Thank you. You don't need to thank me. I do. Those men were going to... She stopped, swallowed. They were going to ship me somewhere. Someone had bought me. Dr. Brennan leaned forward. Madison, we can stop if this is too difficult. No. I want to talk to him. I need to understand what happened. Brill pulled a chair over and sat down. Kept distance between them. Didn't crowd her space. Your father said you remembered a party, a man asking questions. The fundraiser, 3 weeks before spring break. Madison's hands gripped the arms of her chair. He was friendly, sophisticated, asked about school, my plans. I thought he was just networking. But now I realize he was gathering information. Can you describe him? Older, silver hair, expensive suit. He had an air about him like he was used to being in charge, being listened to. Brill showed her the photo of Pemberton on his phone. Is this him? Madison leaned closer. Her face went pale. Yes, that's him. Who is he? His name is James Pemberton. He facilitated your kidnapping, sent your information to the man who bought you. Why? Why would he do that? Money. He gets a commission on every girl he delivers. Madison's hands started shaking. Dr. Brennan stood. I think we should... No. Madison's voice was firm. I need to know. How many others? Brill looked at her, at the fear and anger warring in her face. She deserved the truth. 23 girls over 3 years, that we know of, probably more. Madison closed her eyes. Tears leaked out. Oh, God. Your father said there was a woman with Pemberton at the party. Do you remember her? Madison wiped her eyes, nodded. Blonde, tall, late 20s maybe, very polished. They seemed to know each other well. Brill pulled up Victoria Chen's photo. It had been attached to her business profile. Her? Madison studied it, shook her head. No, this woman was older than that, and her hair was lighter. He showed her photos of the other associates in Pemberton's network, one by one. Madison looked at each carefully. When he showed her the 5th photo, she stopped. Her. That's the woman from the party. The photo was of Amanda Sterling, 36 years old, Georgetown law graduate. Worked for a consulting firm that specialized in background checks for government contractors, access to databases, medical records, financial information, everything you'd need to vet targets. "You're sure?" Brill asked. "Positive." She had this laugh, very distinctive. I remember hearing it across the room. Brill saved the information. "Did she talk to you?" "No, she stayed with Pemberton mostly. But I saw her watching me, several times, like she was evaluating something." "Did you see them talk to anyone else? Anyone your age?" Madison thought for a moment. "There was another girl, from American University. I didn't know her name, but I recognized her from social media. She was there with her parents. I saw Pemberton talking to them." "What did she look like?" "Redhead, very pretty, maybe 20. I remember thinking her dress was amazing." Brill made a note. He'd have Simon search missing persons reports. American University students. Redheads. Last 3 months. "Madison," Dr. Brennan said, "this is enough. You need to rest." But Madison wasn't listening to the doctor. She was looking at Brill. "What are you going to do to them? To Pemberton and that woman?" "That's not something you need to worry about." "Are you going to kill them?" The room went silent. Dr. Brennan tensed. From outside the door, Brill could hear Kovach shift his weight. "I'm going to make sure they never hurt anyone else," Brill said. "That's not an answer." "It's the only answer I can give you." Madison held his gaze. Something hard had come into her eyes, something that hadn't been there before. The trauma had changed her, made her older, colder. "Good," she said. "I hope you do kill them. I hope they suffer." "Madison," Dr. Brennan started. "I mean it. They destroyed my life. They drugged me. They zip-tied me in a storage unit like I was furniture. They were going to ship me to some island and—" Her voice broke. "They deserve to die." Brill stood. "You're going to be okay. It doesn't feel like it now. But you will." "How do you know?" "Because you're stronger than what happened to you. Because you survived. That takes strength most people don't have." Madison looked out the window. "I don't feel strong. I feel broken. Broken things can be fixed. It takes time. But they can be fixed." He walked to the door, stopped. "The people who did this to you are going to answer for it. I promise you that." "Thank you," Madison whispered. Brill left the room. Kovach and Driscoll were waiting in the hallway. "You get what you needed?" Kovach asked. "Yeah." "What now?" "Now I find Amanda Sterling." "And then?" "Then I find out how deep this goes." They walked through the hospital, out to the parking lot. The morning was cold, gray clouds threatening rain. Brill's phone buzzed. "Simon, I've been digging into Sterling. She's got connections everywhere. State Department, Homeland Security, defense contractors. She can access databases most people don't even know exist." "Where is she now?" "Arlington, condo in Clarendon. I'm sending you the address." "What about Pemberton?" "He's at his office, Stone Ridge Capital, K Street. Been there since 8 this morning." "Keep tracking both of them. Let me know if either one moves." "You going after them?" "Not yet. First, I need to know who else is involved. How many people are part of this network?" "I'm still going through the laptop, but so far it looks like there are at least 8 active suppliers feeding multiple buyers. This isn't just about Locke. This is organized, professional, international. How many girls are we talking about? In the last 5 years? Based on the financial records? Maybe 200. 200 girls. 200 lives destroyed. 200 families who lost daughters." Brill felt the cold settle deeper in his chest. The thing that lived there. The thing that made him good at what he did. "Send me everything," he said. "Names, addresses, known associates, everything." "You're going after all of them?" "Someone has to." Simon was quiet for a moment. "The chief of staff told you to wait 2 weeks, to let him handle it." "I heard what he said." "That's not the same as agreeing." "No, it's not. Brill ended the call, looked at Kovac and Driscoll. "Take me back to the airport," he said. "Where are you going?" Kovac asked. "Back to Miami. I need to pick up some things." "What things?" "Things I'll need when I come back." Kovac grabbed his arm. "Listen to me. The chief of staff is trying to do this the right way. Build a case, get warrants, put these people in prison. That'll take months, maybe years. How many more girls disappear while he's building his case? That's not your problem." "Yes, it is. I made it my problem when I pulled Madison out of that warehouse." "You're one man. You can't take down an entire network." Brill looked at him. At the concern in his face, the worry. Kovac was a good man, a by-the-book man, a man who believed in systems and processes. But systems failed. Processes took too long. And while everyone waited for justice to work its slow way through the courts, predators kept hunting. "Watch me," Brill said. He pulled his arm free and walked to the car. Behind him, Kovac and Driscoll exchanged looks. Then they followed. The drive to the airport was silent. Brill was already planning, already thinking about what he'd need, what it would take to dismantle an organization this big. It would require resources, intelligence, precision, and it would require killing, a lot of killing. The plane back to Miami left in 2 hours. Brill intended to be on it. Brill's apartment in D.C. was exactly as he'd left it 3 days ago. Empty, clean, waiting. He'd flown back from Miami that afternoon. The Honda was in long-term parking at Reagan. He'd driven straight here. No stops, no detours. Now he sat at the table with his laptop open and files spread in front of him. Everything Simon had pulled from Locke's computer, names, addresses, financial records, a map of an operation that stretched across 3 continents. His phone rang. Richard Wright. Brill answered. "I need you to come to my house," Wright said. His voice was strained. "Tonight. We need to talk." "About what?" "About what happens next. About Pemberton and everyone else involved." "I thought you wanted 2 weeks." "That was before the FBI briefed me. Before I understood the scope of what we're dealing with." "What time?" 9 o'clock. Come to the back entrance. Security will be expecting you." The line went dead. Brill checked his watch. 6:30, 2.5 hours. He went to the bedroom and opened the safe. The weapons were still there. The Glock, the backup piece, extra magazines. He loaded them methodically, checked the actions, set them on the bed. Then he pulled out the go bag, added clothes, cash, the fake IDs, everything he'd need if this went wrong. His phone buzzed. Simon. "Sterling just left her condo. She's driving east on I-66. Looks like she's headed out of the city." "Where?" "Can't tell yet. I'll keep tracking." "What about Pemberton?" "Still at his office. Working late. He's got a dinner reservation at the Capitol Grill at 8. "Send me the location." "Already did. But Brill, if you're thinking about hitting him in a public restaurant..." "I'm not thinking about anything yet. Just gathering information." "All right. I'll keep you updated." Brill ended the call. He looked at the weapons on the bed, at the go bag, at the files on the table. He thought about what Wright had said on the phone, the FBI briefing, the scope of the operation. They knew now. The government knew there was a network, that American citizens were facilitating human trafficking on an industrial scale, that girls were being sold to buyers around the world, and they would do what governments always did, build cases, gather evidence, move slowly and carefully to ensure every arrest held up in court. It would take a year, maybe 2, and during that time, how many more girls would disappear? How many more families would be destroyed? Brill packed the weapons in the go bag, zipped it closed. He knew what he was going to do. He'd known since he read the files, since he saw the number, 200 girls. But he needed to hear what Wright had to say, Needed to give him one last chance to convince him there was another way. At 8:30, Brill drove to Chevy Chase. Wright's house was Georgian colonial, brick and white columns, circular driveway, the kind of house that said power and privilege. Security was heavy, men in suits with earpieces, cameras everywhere. Brill showed ID at the gate. They checked a list, waved him through. He parked in back like Wright had instructed. A different guard met him at the door, led him through a kitchen, down a hallway, to a study lined with books. Wright was there. So was Kovac. And a third man Brill didn't recognize, 60-something, gray suit, the bearing of someone who'd spent a career in law enforcement. "Mr. Wingfield," Wright said, "thank you for coming. This is Deputy Director Marsh, FBI." Marsh extended his hand. Brill shook it. The grip was firm, measuring. "Sir," Marsh said. He gestured to a chair. "Please." They all sat. The study felt smaller with 4 men in it. The walls pressed in. Wright spoke first. "I asked Deputy Director Marsh to brief me on the trafficking investigation. What he told me was disturbing." "How disturbing?" Brill asked. Marsh leaned forward. "We've been tracking James Pemberton for 6 months, ever since a confidential informant mentioned his name in connection with a prostitution ring in McLean. But we had no idea about the scope until you recovered Locke's laptop." "You've had the laptop for 8 hours. What did you find?" "A network of 8 suppliers, multiple buyers across 4 continents, financial transactions totaling over $15 million in the last 5 years, and evidence suggesting this operation has been running for at least a decade." "How many girls?" Marsh's jaw tightened. "We're still analyzing the data, but our preliminary estimate is between 300 and 400. The room went silent. Even Kovac looked shocked. "Jesus," Wright whispered. "Some of these girls are still alive," Marsh continued, "being held in various locations. We've already coordinated with Interpol. With foreign law enforcement, we're planning simultaneous raids across 6 countries." "When?" Brill asked. 6 weeks, maybe 8. We need to build airtight cases, get warrants, coordinate logistics. This is the largest human trafficking investigation in Bureau history. 6 weeks is too long. It's as fast as we can move and still do this right." "In 6 weeks, how many more girls disappear?" Marsh's expression hardened. "We're aware of the risk, but if we move too fast, defense attorneys will tear apart the cases. These people will walk. Is that what you want?" "I want them stopped, permanently." "So do I, but we live in a nation of laws. We have to follow procedure." Brill looked at Wright. "Is this why you brought me here? To tell me to stand down?" Wright stood, walked to the window, looked out at the manicured lawn. "The deputy director has made a compelling argument that the Bureau can handle this, that justice will be served. But you don't believe him." Wright turned. "I believe he's sincere. I believe he wants to do the right thing. But I also know how the system works. How expensive lawyers and political connections can turn solid cases into acquittals." "Sir," Marsh started. Wright held up a hand. "Let me finish. My daughter was targeted by this network. She was drugged, kidnapped, nearly sold to a predator who would have destroyed her. If Mr. Wingfield hadn't intervened, Madison would be gone. Forever." "I understand that," Marsh said, "and I'm grateful for what Mr. Wingfield did. But his methods aren't sustainable. He can't just kill everyone involved." "Why not?" Brill asked. Marsh stared at him. "Excuse me? Why can't I kill them? They're predators. They destroy lives. They operate with impunity because they know the system can't touch them. The system can touch them. That's what I'm trying to tell you. We have evidence now, real evidence. We can put them away." "For how long? Pemberton's rich, connected. He'll get the best lawyers. Probably serves 5 years in a minimum security facility. Maybe less with good behavior. Then he's out. Back in business." "That's not how—" "That's exactly how it works. You know it. I know it. Everyone in this room knows it." Kovac spoke up. "What are you suggesting? That we just let you execute everyone on that list?" I'm suggesting that some people are beyond redemption, beyond rehabilitation. They need to be removed. You're talking about murder. I'm talking about justice. That's not justice. That's vigilantism. Call it whatever you want. The result is the same. These people stop hurting girls. Wright moved back to his chair, sat down heavily. He looked older than he had that morning, exhausted. I brought you here because I wanted to hear both sides, Wright said. I wanted Deputy Director Marsh to convince me that the Bureau could handle this, that we could trust the process. And? Marsh asked. And I'm not convinced. Wright looked at Brill. 2 weeks ago, my daughter was at Georgetown, planning her future, happy. Now she's in a psychiatric ward, traumatized, changed forever, because predators like Pemberton decided she was worth $50,000. We're going to get him, Marsh said. I promise you that. Your promise doesn't mean much to the girls who disappear while you're building your case. Marsh stood. With all due respect, sir, you're the White House Chief of Staff. You can't be part of a conspiracy to commit murder. If Mr. Wingfield acts on his own, that's one thing. But if you sanction it... I'm not sanctioning anything, Wright said quickly. I'm simply acknowledging reality, that the system has limitations, that sometimes those limitations cost innocent lives. So, what are you saying? Wright looked at Brill. Something passed between them, an understanding. I'm saying that Mr. Wingfield is no longer employed by anyone in this administration. He was never officially involved in Madison's rescue. He doesn't exist in any paperwork, any record, any file. That's a dangerous game, Marsh said. Everything about this situation is dangerous. Wright stood, extended his hand to Marsh. Thank you for coming. Thank you for the briefing. I trust you'll keep me informed as the investigation progresses. Marsh shook his hand, but his expression was troubled. Sir, if Mr. Wingfield takes action against American citizens on American soil, the Bureau will have to investigate. We'll have no choice. Then I suggest you focus on your trafficking investigation. Let the chips fall where they may. Marsh looked at Brill. If you do this, you're on your own. No protection, no support. The full weight of federal law enforcement will come down on you. I've been on my own before, Brill said. Marsh shook his head, walked to the door, stopped. For what it's worth, I hope you succeed. I hope every one of these bastards gets what they deserve, but I can't be part of it. I won't compromise the Bureau's integrity. I understand, Brill said. Marsh left. His footsteps echoed down the hallway. The three remaining men sat in silence for a long moment. Finally, Kovach spoke. You're really going to do this? Kill them all? Yes. How many? However many it takes. You can't do it alone. There are 8 suppliers, multiple buyers, security, guards. This isn't like the warehouse. I know. So what's your plan? Brill stood. I don't have one yet, but I will. Wright walked him to the door, out to the back entrance where Brill had parked. I can't help you, Wright said. Not officially. Not in any way that could be traced. I don't need your help. But I can make sure that certain information reaches you. Addresses, schedules, security details, things that might be useful. That would be helpful. Wright pulled an envelope from his jacket, handed it to Brill. This is everything we have on Pemberton, where he lives, where he works, his routines, his weaknesses. Brill took the envelope. Thank you. Don't thank me. I'm being selfish. I want these people gone. I want to know that no other father has to go through what I went through. They'll be gone. How long will it take? 2 weeks, maybe less. Wright nodded. Good luck, Mr. Wingfield, and please be careful. These people have resources. They'll see you coming. That's what they think. Brill got in his car and drove away. In the rearview mirror, Wright stood at the door, watching. Then he turned and went inside. The night was cold, clear, stars visible above the city lights. Brill opened the envelope at a red light. Inside was a dossier on Pemberton, photos, financial records, property deeds, daily schedule, and a handwritten note from Wright. Do what needs to be done. For Madison. For all of them. Brill tucked the note back in the envelope. He drove back to his apartment, parked in the garage, took the elevator up. Inside, he spread Pemberton's file on the table next to the others. 8 suppliers, multiple buyers, a network that stretched around the world. The FBI wanted 6 weeks to coordinate, to build cases, to follow procedure. Brill was going to give them 2 weeks. 2 weeks to dismantle an empire. 2 weeks to eliminate every person who'd profited from selling girls. 2 weeks to make sure Madison Wright and the hundreds like her could sleep without fear. He picked up his phone, called Simon. "I need everything," Brill said. "Complete profiles on all 8 suppliers, security details, known associates, vulnerabilities, everything you can find. When do you need it?" "Tomorrow morning." "That's 12 hours. Then you better get started." Simon was quiet for a moment. "You're going after all of them?" "Yes." "That's suicide." "Probably. I'll have what you need by sunrise." The line went dead. Brill stood at the window, looked out at the city, at the lights, at the people living their ordinary lives, unaware that beneath the surface monsters hunted, but not for much longer. Sunrise found Brill exactly where the night had left him, at the table in his apartment, staring at the laptop screen. The city woke up below him, horns honking, the distant groan of a garbage truck, people moving toward jobs and routines, normalcy. There was nothing normal on his screen. Simon had delivered. At 04:37 a.m., the encrypted file had arrived. It wasn't just a dossier. It was an atlas of a global operation. 8 primary suppliers. James Pemberton and Amanda Sterling were the Washington hub. They used their political and intelligence access to select high-profile, high-value targets. Victoria Chen ran a network out of London, targeting the daughters of European industrialists and Russian oligarchs. Marcus Thorne, based in Miami, was the volume dealer. He supplied the runaways, the addicts, the girls who had already fallen through the cracks. The other 4 were spread across the globe: Hong Kong, Dubai, Rio, and Prague. Each had a specialty. Each had a list of buyers. Locke had just been one of many. The list of victims, cross-referenced from financial records and fragmented communications, was 219 names long. Brill closed the laptop. The path was clear. The FBI's 6-week plan was a fantasy. They'd spend months just untangling the legal jurisdictions. By then, the network would have scrubbed its servers, changed its identities, and disappeared. He had 2 weeks. He went to the bedroom and opened the safe. He assembled a toolkit, the Glock 19 with the suppressor, 4 extra magazines, a boot knife, zip ties, a small roll of duct tape, a nondescript black backpack to hold it all. He dressed in the uniform of the city, dark jeans, gray t-shirt, black windbreaker, invisible. His first target wasn't Pemberton, it was Amanda Sterling. Pemberton was the salesman. Sterling was the architect. She was the one with access, the one who ran the background checks and found the vulnerabilities. She was the network's brain. And Brill needed to know what she knew before he shut her down. Her building in Clarendon was new money: glass and steel, a concierge in the lobby, and a private garage with security cameras at every turn. Simon's intel package had included the garage's entry code sequence and, more importantly, the maintenance schedule for the camera system. The camera in the southeast corner, near her reserved space, was on a 7-minute loop reboot cycle every morning at 08:00 a.m. A software glitch the building's management hadn't bothered to fix. Brill entered the garage at 07:58 a.m. He found her space, 72. A Tesla Model S was plugged into the wall. He didn't wait in the shadows. He stood by the concrete pillar 3 feet away, reading the news on his phone. He looked like any other resident waiting for a rideshare. At 8:12 a.m., the elevator chimed. Amanda Sterling walked out. She was exactly as Madison had described: 36, tall, blonde hair pulled into a severe professional ponytail. She wore a tailored gray pantsuit and carried a leather briefcase. She was on her phone, already taking a call, her voice crisp and annoyed. "No, I don't care what his schedule is. You tell the senator's office that if he wants the PAC money, he makes time. End of story." She clicked off the call as she reached her car. She tossed her briefcase in the passenger seat and turned back to unplug the charger. Brill moved. He covered the 6 feet in 2 silent steps. His hand clamped over her mouth before she could draw a breath to scream. His other arm wrapped around her waist, lifting her off her feet. He pressed the suppressed muzzle of the Glock into her ribs. "Not a sound," he whispered. His voice was flat, dead. "Nod if you understand." Her body was rigid with shock, but she nodded. "We are going to walk back to the elevator. We are going to your apartment. You will not look at the concierge. You will not try to run. If you do, I will kill you here and take your keys. It makes no difference to me. Understood?" She nodded again, her eyes wide with terror. He relaxed his grip just enough to let her walk. His left hand gripped her arm, fingers digging in, while the Glock remained pressed against her spine, hidden by his body and the windbreaker. They walked to the elevator. She swiped her key fob. The doors opened. Inside, he pressed the button for the penthouse. The ride up was silent. Brill watched her in the polished steel of the elevator door. He could see her mind working, calculating, trying to find an angle. She was a woman who solved problems. This was just another problem. "Who sent you?" she asked, her voice tight. "Is it Pemberton? Did he—" Quiet. The elevator opened onto a private lobby. Her apartment was the only one on the floor. He guided her to the door. "Unlock it." She fumbled with the key. Her composure was breaking. "Faster." She got the door open and he pushed her inside. The apartment was cold. White marble floors, black leather furniture, and a wall of glass overlooking the Potomac. It looked like a photograph from a design magazine. Untouched, unlived in. "Sit," he said, pointing to a steel and leather chair. She sat. He pulled the zip ties from his bag. "What do you want?" she said, the fear now giving way to anger. "Money? Do you know who I am?" "I know exactly who you are, Amanda." He zip-tied her wrists behind the chair, then her ankles to the legs. She was secure. He walked to the window, looked out. "You and Pemberton sold Madison Wright to Grayson Locke for $100,000. All the color drained from her face. This wasn't a random attack. This wasn't for money. This was for something else. "I don't know what you're talking about." Brill turned. He set Locke's laptop on her glass coffee table, powered it on. He opened the file, the email thread between her, Pemberton, and Locke, the photos, the price. "This is your email. This is your price. This is your signature." She stared at the screen. Silent. "I was in Nassau 3 nights ago," Brill said. He walked over to her, crouched down so he was at her eye level. "I killed Locke. I killed Rico. I killed Carlito. I killed the men at the warehouse. And now, I'm here." Her breathing was shallow, panicked. "I don't just want a confession, Amanda. I want access. Your passwords, your servers. The background check system you use to vet your targets. Go to hell." "I'm already there." He pulled out his phone. He brought up the photo he'd taken in the storage unit. The one of Madison, hollow-eyed, zip-tied, waiting to be sold. He held it in front of her face. "This is your work? This is the girl from the fundraiser, the one you evaluated?" She turned her head away. "I just ran a check, that's all. I provide data. I don't get involved in the logistics. You're a supplier. You're a predator, just like them." He stood. "You're going to give me the passwords. And if I do, you'll let me go?" "No. If you do, I'll know you told me the truth." She stared at him, the realization dawning. He wasn't negotiating for her freedom. He was just collecting his facts. "You're going to kill me anyway?" she whispered. "Yes. The only question is how much time it takes." She looked at the photo of Madison, then at the email, then at Brill. His eyes were black, flat. She saw no negotiation in them, no mercy. She began to cry, not for Madison, for herself. "It's on my server," she said, her voice trembling. "In the study, I'll give you the login." He cut the ties on her wrists. "Get up." He walked her to the study. A sleek, glass desk held 2 monitors. A server tower hummed quietly in a cabinet. "Sit. Log in. Show me everything." "For 20 minutes, she typed. Her hands shook, but she did what he said. She opened her encrypted files, showed him the database, the real one, not the one she kept for plausible deniability. It was worse than he thought. It wasn't just girls. It was financial data. Blackmail material on politicians, dossiers on corporate rivals. Amanda Sterling wasn't just a trafficker. She was an information broker for the darkest corners of the Capitol. Brill pulled out his phone, texted Simon. "I'm in." A moment later, Simon replied. "I see it. I'm cloning the drive. 5 minutes." Brill watched the progress bar on his phone. Amanda sat at the desk, defeated. "Pemberton," Brill said, "does he know you keep this?" "He knows I'm good at my job. He doesn't ask questions." "Who else knows?" "No one. Just me." The phone buzzed. "Clone complete," Simon's text read. "I have everything." Brill put the phone away. Amanda turned in the chair. "Please," she whispered. "I have money, offshore accounts, millions. You can have it. Just let me go." Brill looked at her, at the expensive suit, the cold apartment, the database full of ruined lives. "You sold 219 girls," he said. I didn't. Maybe more. You evaluated them like cattle. You took their futures and sold them for a commission." He pulled the Glock from his waistband. The suppressor made the weapon look unnaturally long. "You can't," she said, scrambling back in her chair. "You can't just kill me." Brill thought of Madison in the hospital. He thought of the 218 other names. "I'm not just killing you," he said. "I'm just starting." He pulled the trigger. The sound was a dull cough. Amanda Sterling slumped over the desk. Brill took her server's hard drive, wiped the desk and her keyboard, walked back to the living room, collected his laptop, and let himself out. He took the stairs down, all 38 flights. He walked out of the service exit and into the 8:45 a.m. commuter rush. One down. He got in his car and pulled up the address for Stone Ridge Capitol. Pemberton's first meeting was at 10. K Street was a canyon of glass, steel, and power. Brill sat in his parked Honda across the street from the high-rise that housed Stone Ridge Capitol. It was 9:30 a.m. Lobby traffic was heavy, men and women in expensive suits carrying briefcases, all moving with the hurried self-importance of people who believed they ran the world. Pemberton's office was on the 14th floor. The entire floor, according to Simon's data. It was a fortress. Keycard access in the elevators, a receptionist in the lobby, and another security desk on the 14th floor itself. Walking in the front door was impossible. Brill's phone buzzed. A text from Simon. "Loading dock, northwest corner. Gray coveralls and a red toolbox in the back of the 3rd maintenance van. Unlocked. You have a 10-minute window before the driver returns." Brill got out of the car. He walked, not ran, around the block. Blended with the foot traffic. He found the loading dock. A white Ford Transit van was backed into a bay, its side door open. He glanced around. No one. He slipped into the back of the van. The gray coveralls were piled on a shelf. He pulled them on over his clothes. They smelled like grease and industrial soap. The red toolbox was heavy. He opened it. Standard tools. He tucked the suppressed Glock beneath a layer of wrenches, closed it, and stepped back out. He walked into the building through the freight entrance. A guard at a small desk looked up. "Schvack," Brill said, tapping the fake ID badge Simon had left clipped to the coveralls. 14. Units rattling. The guard grunted, buzzed him through. The service elevator was slow. It smelled like stale coffee. He rode it to the 14th floor and stepped out into a utility corridor. He found the junction box for the 14th floor offices. Inside, a complex web of fiber optic cables. Simon's intel had included the schematics. He found the line for the reception desk and the security office. He pulled his boot knife, severed both, and shoved the cables back into the wall. The alarms wouldn't sound. The cameras on this floor were now recording a static, looping image of an empty hallway. He walked out of the corridor and into the plush, carpeted reception area of Stone Ridge Capitol. A woman sat at a massive mahogany desk. She was typing furiously, her phone pressed to her ear. "I don't care," she said. "The entire system just went down. No, I can't check his schedule. My screen is black. Just find a technician and get them up here." Brill walked past her desk. "Excuse me," she called out, her hand covering the receiver. "You can't go back there." Brill pointed at the junction box on the far wall. "Fixing it." She scowled, but her attention was divided. "Just be quick. Mr. Pemberton's 10 o'clock is almost here." Brill nodded and turned the corner. Pemberton's office was at the end of the hall. Corner suite, double oak doors. He didn't knock. He just opened the door and walked in. James Pemberton was standing by his window, looking down at the street. He was exactly as his photos had shown. Silver hair, impeccable tailoring. He was on the phone. "I don't know what happened to Amanda. She missed the morning brief. Find her," he said. He turned, saw Brill, and his face hardened. "I'll call you back." He hung up. "Who the hell are you? How did you get past my assistant?" "Her computer's down," Brill said. He set the toolbox on a $1 billion Persian rug. "I don't care. Get out. I have a meeting." Pemberton reached for the intercom on his desk. "I wouldn't," Brill said. He opened the toolbox and took out the Glock. The suppressor added 6 inches of menace. Pemberton froze. His arrogance faltered, replaced by a flicker of disbelief. "What is this?" he demanded. "A shakedown? How much do you want? I can have $500,000 in cash here in an hour." "I'm not here for money." Brill walked to the desk. He pulled out the photo of Madison Wright from the storage unit, the one that showed her drugged, hollow-eyed, and broken. He slid it across the desk. Pemberton glanced at it. His expression didn't change. "I don't know what that is." "Her name is Madison Wright. You sold her to Grayson Locke for $100,000. Pemberton's face went pale. He finally understood. This wasn't a robbery. This was an accounting. "You're mistaken," he said, but his voice was thin. "I killed Grayson Locke in Nassau," Brill said. "I killed Amanda Sterling in her apartment 2 hours ago. I have her servers. I have yours. I have the list." Pemberton sank into his leather chair. The blood had drained from his face. You're the one," he whispered. "The one Enzo warned us about." "This is for Madison," Brill said, "and the 218 others." 200 and... Pemberton looked confused. "You're wrong. My operation... We were very selective, only a few a year. High value, it wasn't... Your network, all 8 suppliers. The list is 219. And counting." "My God," Pemberton said. He looked at the Glock, then at Brill. The calculation was happening. The frantic search for an escape. "You can't kill me here," he said, trying to regain his composure. "My 10 o'clock will be here any second. The building is full of security. You'll never get out. They're not my concern." "I can give you more," Pemberton said, leaning forward. "The other suppliers. I can give you their real names, their locations. Victoria Chen in London, Thorne, all of them. I can help you. You already have. Wait. Pemberton held up a hand. You don't understand. This is bigger than me. Bigger than Amanda. You just what? Took a commission? You're a predator, James. You hunt children in reception halls. You sell them. They were commodities. Pemberton slammed his fist on the desk. It was just business. It was money. You can't kill me over money. I'm not, Brill said. He raised the Glock. This isn't business. It's justice. Pemberton opened his mouth to scream. Brill fired twice. The rounds made a soft thwip, thwip. 2 red holes appeared in the center of Pemberton's white shirt. His eyes went wide. He slumped forward onto his desk, scattering expensive pens. Brill stood there for a moment. The room was silent. He could hear the faint sound of the assistant outside, still arguing on the phone. He put the Glock back in the toolbox. He hadn't touched anything, hadn't left a print. He walked out of the office, pulling the double doors shut behind him. He walked past the reception desk. The assistant didn't look up. All set, Brill said. Whatever, she muttered, hitting her phone. Still not working. Brill didn't reply. He went to the utility corridor and took the service elevator down to the loading dock. He walked to the maintenance van. The driver still wasn't back. He put the toolbox inside, stripped off the coveralls, and dropped them on the pile. He walked out of the loading dock, just another man in a windbreaker. He crossed the street to his car as the first black sedan pulled up to the building's main entrance. Pemberton's 10 a.m. meeting. Brill got behind the wheel and started the engine. 2 down. He pulled out his phone, texted Simon. Victoria Chen, London, book me a flight. Dulles International was a river of anonymous travelers. Brill sat at a table in the concourse, nursing a black coffee he didn't taste. His flight to London left in 90 minutes. He wore a different jacket, a new baseball cap. His Glock was gone, disassembled and mailed in separate machine-oiled parts to a post office box in Vienna he'd maintained for a decade. He would be unarmed in London. For a few hours. A terminal television above the bar was on mute, tuned to a national news network. The Chiron was all he needed. Double homicide rocks D.C. elite. Photos of Amanda Sterling and James Pemberton filled the screen. A breaking news banner flashed. A talking head looked grave. The story was already being spun. A brutal, professional hit. No forced entry at either location. Speculation centered on a business deal gone wrong. Foreign entanglement. No one, not yet, had connected it to a missing girl from spring break. The network's camouflage was still working, even in death. His phone buzzed, not a text, a call, encrypted. The number was Richard Wright's. Brill answered. They're dead, Wright said. His voice was flat, drained of all emotion. I saw the news, Brill said. Marsh is... Wright sighed. He's incandescent. The Bureau is treating this as a high-level assassination. They're pulling security footage from half the city. They've already questioned my security detail, trying to find a link to you. They won't find one. I don't exist. You need to disappear, Mr. Wingfield, for good. Whatever you did, it's over. You need to stop. Brill watched a family run, laughing toward their gate. It's not over. There are 6 more suppliers. And then there are the buyers. A long silence stretched over the line. Wright already knew. He had just needed to say the words, to make the official request. I can't sanction this, Wright said finally. I can't be a party to it. My daughter, she's coming home tomorrow, from Walter Reed. That's all that matters to me. That's all that should. There's an account, Cayman Islands. The number is in your encrypted messages. It's the full 100,000 Carver promised you, plus a contribution for your expenses. I don't need your money. Yes, you do. Wright's voice was suddenly hard. You're not a ghost. You're a man. You'll need planes, weapons, safe houses. This isn't a war you can fight with your bare hands. Take the money, use it, bleed them all dry. Just never call me again. We never spoke. This never happened. Understood. God help you, Brill. The line went dead. Brill sat for another minute. He was truly cut loose. No authority, no backup, no safety net, just a list and a bank account. It was cleaner this way. He checked his phone. One new message from Simon. Flight 220, BA 9:15 p.m. Victoria Chen's complete dossier is uploaded. She's hosting a Save the Children gala at the Tate Modern in 48 hours. Security will be heavy, but she'll be visible. A perfect target. Brill memorized the flight. He was about to delete the message when another one came in. Unknown number. He opened it. I saw the news. I know it was you. My father thinks you're a monster. So does Dr. Brennan. Maybe they're right. Brill's thumb hovered over the delete button. Another message from the same number appeared. Thank you. Make them all pay. It was from Madison.